Gospel and equipping the saints in a way that only Todd Friel can. Wretched, weekdays and weeknights on theDove TV, encouraging and informative.
Well, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Notice how smiley Jerry is. And he's got a pulse.
It's still beating there.
Beating.
We're still alive.
They're alive. The Yanks beat the Dodgers 11-4 last night.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Nice to have you back, buddy.
It's nice to be here for the moment.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. A lot going on in the news. We're winding down to the final hours. The hinges are coming off of a couple of things.
Oh, yeah.
It's just an amazing time. I hope that we can keep our head. Let me ask you just one little quick question before we get into the heat of all this.
Yeah.
Do you think there really are undecided voters?
I really doubt it.
I don't think so either.
I doubt it.
I think everybody's pretty much made up their mind now. You might as well go ahead and punch the card and send it in.
Send it in.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Good morning to you. Beautiful weather out there. A little cooler, a little wetter, a little of everything. We'll talk about that. And what's special today?
Well, something I think that the sitting president needs a little help from, a publicist. It is National Publicist Day. They put the right spin on things, right?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. It's
My publicist fired me.
Here's a little bit of trivia. On October 30th, 1906, the New York Times printed verbatim the very first press release that was written by Ivy Lee. He was called the father of modern PR. He represented the Pennsylvania Railroad, and earlier they had a train come off the rails and 50 people lost their lives. He wrote a press release about it, and then he convinced the train company to take a special train and get reporters to the scene of the accident so they could actively report on it. So that's the first publicist, and I think most companies, or at least most organizations, have a publicist these days, don't they?
Well, they should.
Yeah.
Given the meaning of words.
Yeah.
Or the mismeaning or misuse of words.
Okay. Well, and speaking of such, it is Speak Up for Service Day. It encourages the good deeds of young people to go out and speak about service. Each year, the public speaking contest, Speak Up for Service, is held in conjunction with the North Dakota State Lions Convention. Other Lions clubs and districts throughout the North America sponsor similar public speaking contests, and young people share their insights of the day. Be interesting to see what young people would say about our current election cycle.
I know that some Rotary clubs have done that, and other people. It's really, some of these kids can get up and put it out there.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's a good thing. What's the club out there that adults go to speak at? I'm trying to think.
Oh, the Toastmasters?
Toastmasters.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a
No,
Toastmasters?
I never have. How about you?
I have, and a couple of times, and you get graded for it.
Oh.
I've learned some things, though. Because,
what?
Well, you got to have your first line is critical.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
It's like, do you have a powerful opening statement?
Okay, yeah. Yes.
A good pastor, and I say this isn't a pattern for everybody, but a pastor that really wants to connect with this congregation starts the sermon with a question.
Oh.
It engages the mind. It gets people locked in, and then you move from there.
Yeah.
And then do you have the powerful end, the other rah-rah end?
Yeah, well, okay.
And I was taught in Bible school with a little note on the podium. If you haven't struck oil in 20 minutes, stop boring.
You can tell it by the face.
It was right there. It says, if you haven't struck oil in 20 minutes, stop boring.
Good enough. All right, and then have some candy. The only thing we have to eat is candy corn. It's National Candy Corn Day.
Just in time for tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. In the late 1800s, George Renninger of the Wonderly Candy Company created candy corn. It represented the bright colors of corn kernels. Originally, candy corn was yellow, orange, and white.
Oh.
And
what is it now?
Later, other candies.
Oh, they dipped it in chocolate.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, I see. Yeah.
So they got yellow, orange, and white, and then they dipped it in chocolate, and then they made little pumpkins out of them.
Yep. And it was made by hand using corn syrup, sugar, water, marshmallows, fondant, and canuba wax. Wax.
Okay.
We got wax in our candy?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Makes it chewy.
There's the dark one there.
Yeah, it makes it chewy.
All right. So chew on some candy corn. When's the last time you had some?
Well, you know, Peggy has this candle in this glass thing with a candle in it, and then she puts the candy corn around it.
Oh, and then you just...
Well, I don't. Jason does.
Oh, really? Really?
He comes in there and he grabs all the candy, and then the candle kind of leans. Then when you light the candle, it burns the side. You know, it's an ongoing trick.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy.
Okay.
That's what we have.
All right. 5.5 past the hour. This guy, he never leans. He was leaning, but he got put back straight. He does the weather here.
With an active frontal system moving across the Pacific Northwest, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain with daytime high temperatures in the low 50s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a south wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Continuing down the Willamette Valley with rain and daytime highs near 51 in Corvallis, 52 in Albany, and near 53 in Salem and Eugene with a south wind 6 to 10 miles per hour and lows in the mid-40s. In central Oregon, rainy and breezy with snow levels at 3,300 feet, rising to around 5,500 feet this afternoon, and daytime highs near 54 in Prineville, 50 in Bend, and near 48 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny and mid-50s. Rainy and gusty winds today along the Oregon coast with daytime highs near 59 in Coos Bay, 51 in Port Orford, 49 in Brookings, and near 57 in Crescent City. In southern Oregon, rain showers with daytime highs in the mid-50s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, a chance of rain and snow with gusty winds and highs in the low 50s. Into northern California with showers in mid-50s in Wairika, a chance of showers near 61 in Redding, but mostly sunny in mid-60s for Chico and Sacramento with lows in the low 50s. In the Bay Area, patchy fog before 10 a.m., then mostly sunny in low 60s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Decreasing clouds becoming sunny with a high near 62 in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then sunny and near 67. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Well, a beautiful shot of the city this morning. We'll see how the day goes. Don't forget this coming weekend, you'll be setting your clocks back. And you'll get an extra hour's sleep this week.
Hot dog.
Fall back, spring forward.
So when are we going to do away with this falling back and springing forward business?
You know, it probably will come up in this next session.
Are we? Oh, really?
But I think what they're trying to do, at least on the West Coast, they got to have all three states do it to make it work.
Yeah, I would think so.
You got to have California, Oregon, and Washington agree to it at the same time. Otherwise, you cross the state line and then
You're changing your watch.
You're
yeah.
in another zone.
Yeah.
You know, so it has to kind of work out that way.
All right. Well, we don't need to look at the news to remind us that there are things that make people fearful out there. But here is Dr. Charles Swindoll with a reminder that fear and faith do not go together.
So here we are with the Lord speaking to Joshua, and he says to him, do not be afraid or discouraged. Stop right there. There's a period. It's a good place to stop. Here's the first principle to remember. After you have fallen and you're finally back on your feet, remember this. Listen to the Lord and not your guilty conscience. Your guilty conscience will remind you again and again what a failure you are, what a fool to think you can ever be worth much. Those are all a pack of lies. If you put them all together, the enemy wants you to hear them and hear them often. Listen to the Lord, not the Lord's counsel, not your guilty conscience. Notice what he addresses, their fear and their discouragement. Both are very real after we've fallen. We fear what others are saying and thinking. We fear doing it again, repeating the same thing, which we may very well do. But don't fear that. That's not to be your focus. We fear the future, what it may hold. By the way, the number one command in all the scriptures is do not fear. or fear not. Check it for yourself. It's mentioned more often than any other command because we are such fearful people. So don't go there. Your guilty conscience will say, fear this, fear that, fear these things. No, he says, don't fear and don't be discouraged. That's the other. Remember this, fear and faith cannot coexist. You cannot move ahead in faith while you're filled with fear.
Well, there's so much there.
Yeah,
That's true. Fear and faith cannot coexist. So which one are you going to listen to? Good stuff. Thank you, Charles Swindoll. All right, good morning to you. Checking out some of the top stories today. Here we go. We are 6 days away from the election, and the lawsuits are flying. There's an article, several articles out, how many attorneys are on standby at various states. And I'm hearing in the hundreds.
No kidding.
Yes, on both sides. Both the D's and the R's have hundreds of attorneys on standby. Now, the problem I'm beginning to think about this is we know that there's going to be a lot of cheating, and it does boil down to really one thing.
What?
Who is qualified to vote?
Yeah, you're right.
It all boils down to that. So yesterday, the RNC, the Republican National Committee, has filed an emergency stay application with the U.S. Supreme Court after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court voted to allow provisional ballots for those who had improperly cast mail-in ballots in the state. So in other words, the Supreme Court there, 4-3, that the voters in the state who had improperly cast their mail ballots, such as not using secure envelopes, could be permitted to cast a provisional ballot on Election Day. In other words, voted twice. Now, here's the problem that I have with this. I would like to say to both sides, in particular to the Republicans, take my little advice for meaning basically nothing. I'm not an attorney. I have become one over the years,
Yes, you
reading
have.
legal documents. But you better make sure that if you're going to appeal things to the U.S. Supreme Court, that it's as tight as you can possibly get it, because you're going to get them mad for wasting their time. And at the end of the day, you're politicizing the court, and you better be very careful about that. The only thing I can say is it boils down to, are these people qualified to vote? That's the number one thing based upon what's happened with illegals in this country.
Right, and are we racist to make somebody show that they're, or show that we are qualified to vote?
That argument just falls flat now because
It does.
It just has no weight to it. The bottom line is, should a non-citizen of the state, of the United States, vote in a federal election, state election, or a county election? And all three of those jurisdictions come into play.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to what they call emergency stay applications with the Supreme Court, and there's going to be a bunch of them, you could get the Supreme Court to the point where they just say, have a nice day.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that will make you just made the Supreme Court political.
Yeah, true.
So I would make sure that wherever you're going to go with this, make sure for sure that your case is pretty obvious that it needs to be decided by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about this.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think every shenanigan out there is going to be pulled.
Yeah, I think they'll attempt it,
And we need to call it out.
Yeah.
But the other thing you need to want to do, now let me just kind of contradict myself.
Oh, okay.
And that is, I think it's best that we do this before the election than after the election.
Oh, yeah.
Because before the election, it can have more of an impact than after the election. So,
we always
just make sure you know what you're doing.
We always hear stories after the election about people turning up with cars that have all kinds of ballots in the trunk, and they want them to be counted. Oh, I forgot these, and they just magically appear out of nowhere.
Well, and I think one thing that Laura Trump has done at the RNC, now she's co-chair, she's kind of head of election integrity, and she's making sure that in some of the obvious trouble states, and especially the battleground states, that there is extra security and watchdogs at all doors, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how that goes. But, cheating in elections have been going on since day one.
True.
And so, but my concern is if you're going to be careful here, because what the left has done has weaponized the courts. And something like this that is frivolous could make it worse. Just make sure your case is solid. All right, the other story yesterday, Steve Bannon got out of prison.
How about that? Yeah.
He's back on the streets. He's a pretty strong advocate of Donald Trump, and he's going to be back pounding his drum. And he basically said he finally is out of the political prisoner, being a political prisoner of Merrick Garland and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi regime.
Oh, wow. Oh.
This guy is an interesting guy. I never could figure out why he's gone as far as he has.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, when you look at him, you kind of go, who is this guy?
Right.
He's a little out of the political norm.
Yeah, he is.
You know, he looks like he just got off a Harley.
Well, I was going to say, he didn't get a haircut while he was in jail.
Oh, no. So, and I don't, no matter what you say today, people get upset. I think you're kind of, you know.
I know.
But he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I've listened to him talk, and I go, I'm not sure why you are so important.
Right. Yeah, true.
You know. But anyway, he's out.
I don't know.
All right. Frank Lutz, he's an interesting guy. I've met Frank Lutz on many a days when he first started doing these focus groups.
Oh, yeah.
He was very good at it. Now he's quite the pollster. He went out and got his PhD in this stuff. And he said that the Vice President Kamala Harris may have waited too long to tell America what she thinks she's going to do.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if you saw her final rally was out on the lawn, way out off with the White House in the background.
Right, and she's calling for unity.
Okay, so yeah, she's calling for unity while she's yelling and screaming. And her boss is running around calling Republicans, or I should say, Trump supporters, garbage.
Garbage. That's the word.
And
garbage.
Garbage, and she did not retract it.
No.
And he just flat called them.
Yeah.
Trump supporters.
Of course, later the White House released a statement through their publicist trying to explain what the president really meant when he called Trump supporters garbage. But we know what he meant.
Yeah. So in the meantime, he thinks that she's missed the point. Now, he uses a little bit of the CNN interview with the vice president in one of the Q&As, question and answers, and she misses it, and he calls her out on it. And here's the exchange.
Let's talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise. Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't.
I think that clip illustrates exactly why Harris is in trouble at this point. And it's something that I don't understand why the campaign does not address. They asked her specifically, where do you stand on the wall? And what does she do? She goes and shifts it right to Donald Trump. Immediately mentions him twice within the first 5 seconds. She still hasn't closed the deal. She still hasn't said to people exactly what she would do. In fact, what she should have done in the opening of that town hall is said, I want to tell you what I'm going to do in the first hour, in the first day, and in the first week. And it's going to take me 5 minutes. So, Anderson, you're going to have to sit tight. Here's what we're going to do by 1 p.m. She didn't do any of that. She hasn't told the public step by step what she's about.
All right, now, why is that important? Now, I don't want to get too down in the weeds on this, but Frank Lutz was doing the focus groups, and he was really rising at the time when I was chairman, and I was attending a Newt Gingrich campaign school, and Frank was there.
Okay.
And he zeroed in on something that we even use today in what we call generational science research. And that, did you notice he said, in 5 seconds, she should have said this?
Right.
So what he did was, he understands now the comprehension span and the attention span of people today. And to the flip side of this, Trump does it too long, but he does answer the question. She avoids the question.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so Trump could take a lot of his answers and condense them down probably to a sentence, but he turns them into, paragraphs, if not chapters.
Yeah.
And she'll avoid the question and go right, well, Trump's this and he's that, and we've already worked on this, and then it doesn't answer the question. What Frank Luntz has proven here is American people are smart. Don't blame me for being stupid. And I can see through this now. Answer the question.
Yeah.
And neither one of them understand the attention span of America, and social media has caused this problem.
Well, that's a good point. Now, I don't doubt that her answering every question with Trump is bad. I don't doubt that that plays well with her base. That's okay. But there's a whole bunch of people in the middle that are listening to this. I doubt that it's playing well with them.
Well, let's talk about the base. Just a couple seconds
all right.
here. Both bases have split. The base in the Democratic Party has split, and the base in the Republican Party has split.
How?
The base in the Republican Party has been categorized as MAGA.
Oh, yeah.
The base in the Democratic Party is categorized as extreme progressive. In other words, really wacko left-wing stuff.
Yeah, the AOC crowd.
Both parties have lost a portion of their base who are tired of the nonsense and have gone underground and don't want to talk about it anymore.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think what they need to understand is that they're being radicalized both from the left and the right to feed this base, and both those bases are going to get them into trouble. Talk to America.
Yeah.
Talk to the person who's buying that loaf of bread, who's paying for that tank of gas.
Yeah.
Talk to that person. Okay, because we're down to 6 days, and I don't think there's any undecided voters out there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think they have made up their minds.
Yeah.
And with the president out calling Republicans garbage and all this other stuff, and she can't answer the question.
Yeah.
Her whole platform is Trump's the problem and I'm the solution. We're sorry, you're playing me for being stupid, and I'm not.
Right.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think
I remember going to Frank Luntz sitting there telling us about how he did focus groups and what he learned from them.
Yeah.
He was the guy that, remember that? After all he'd had these little focus groups out there.
Yeah.
And that kind of put him on the map.
Yep.
And now he's a full-blown
pollster. Yeah, I liked his focus groups. I'd like to see that again. More of it.
Yeah, they're pretty revealing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to focus on...
not candy corn.
Why not?
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to know how to. Ever since grace got you left, till your whole side's hurt and smile, like you just got away with something wild.
Denise Krause is running for our new Jackson County Commissioner because a small group of powerful special interests shouldn't be able to pick our county commissioners. Denise Krause is committed to cutting waste and establishing transparency. Denise will ensure your tax dollars are spent wisely, always working hard for you and your family.
I'm Denise Krause, and I'd appreciate your vote.
First on the ballot, first for taxpayers. Denise Krause for our new Jackson County Commissioner.
The biblical instructions for coming to Christ are repentance and faith. So repentance, that is turning away from your lifestyle of sin, and faith, trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ alone.
There is truth in this world because God created it, and His Word is truth. We see this laid out in the Bible, the foundation to a reasonable faith, and that faith is centered on Jesus Christ and His great work.
Okay, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday on a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And the fall weather's out there and the trees are beautiful. Gosh, some of those trees are just vividly red.
Oh, yeah.
And yellow and
Yeah,
all those pretty
yep.
colors. Well, listen, we've had some rain, more rain on the way, and that is good news because, a little bit of regional news today.
Yeah?
With the arrival of seasonal rains and cooler weather, the Oregon Department of Forestry districts determined the fire restrictions as of October 28th. So we're no longer into restrictions of fires. In fact, did you notice the other day it was a burn day and everybody was out there burning their fire?
Yeah.
I mean, I smelled like the whole hillside was smoking somewhere.
Yeah.
But we had a really bad season. Did you know that we had 1,956 fires throughout the state last year and it burned 1.94 million acres this past year?
Oh, my goodness. No, I didn't know that. Wow.
That's how many fires we had in the state. Whew. By the way, we kind of in our own backyard got by fairly good this year. Most of the fires were around us, but not on us.
Yeah, yep.
And I was sitting in the airport advisory committee meeting the other day, and right out of our backyard, right out that door there, and probably 100 yards across the tarmac, they moved almost 1.2 million gallons of retardant.
Whoa.
This past year.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I forget how many trips that was, but the cost of the fire suppression this year in the state was around $300 million. This was a bad year.
Yeah.
But now with the seasonal rains and the cooler temperatures, restrictions now have been lifted as of the 28th. So for those of you in your various counties, I'm sure your fire districts will tell you when and it's not a burn day. A lot of that now will be determined by the air quality as to whether or not you can do your burn barrel. So do you have burn piles at home?
I do. Yep. I got one ready for the torch. It is ready to go.
Did you cover it?
No.
Well, you know what? All you need is about a day, a little wind, and it dries right out.
Yeah. And it's a big one too. It's a big, yeah.
So
if you hear sirens going out my way, you may know what's going on.
Did I ever tell you the day I touched off a barn?
No, are you serious?
Yeah, no, it was not a good day. It was it was a foggy day, and you couldn't see 20 yards.
Yeah.
And our old barn fell down. So I thought, well, this would be a good day to set it off. So I touched it off,
Yeah.
It was so big and so hot, it lifted the fog. And here comes the fire department.
Oh, my word. No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they came out. And where's your permit? And I said, here. And he said, well, that's an ag permit. And I go, yeah. And he said, well, it doesn't include barns. And I said, well, nobody told me it. It's supposed to be like 8 by 8.
A barn is ag, isn't
that's
it?
What I thought. Oh, the guy wasn't too happy with me.
I bet.
He said, you will have this out by dark, won't you? I said, well, I can't guarantee that, but I'll put a sprinkler on it. But when you get something that big and it goes, it burns pretty fast.
Oh gosh.
But one of my days.
Yeah, fire starting stories. We all have some, don't we?
Well, I was known as Pyro Perry there for a while. All right, let's take a look at the satellite image. Here's what's going on. We do have some weather over the top of it.
Yeah, we got 75% chance of rain today, mid-50s. More rain tomorrow, more rain on Friday, and then tapering off a little bit on Saturday, but still a chance before we start clearing on Sunday. But temperatures are going to stay mainly in the mid-50s.
All right, there you go.
How about that? Not bad. Well, I don't think the Democrats have really caught their breath about yet after the Madison Square Garden event. We've seen that looked at many different ways, and I think it's where the garbage comment came from the president. And on Newsmax's National Report, Representative Byron Donald spoke about Donald Trump's popularity in Pennsylvania and the Madison Square Garden success.
The level of support in Pennsylvania for Donald Trump is massive. I was just in Pennsylvania for 2 days earlier last week. I'll be back later this week. It's real, and it's in the rural red counties, but it's also in the traditionally blue counties. I was in Northeast Philadelphia. People want Donald Trump. I've been in Pittsburgh. People want Donald Trump. And so I will tell you that in Pennsylvania, voters have simply had enough. They've seen both presidents in action. They know Donald Trump was a significantly better option, and they want that again in Pennsylvania. I mean, look, as a New Yorker from Brooklyn, New York, it was great to be home. To be in Madison Square Garden, just personally for me, was surreal. I was kind of looking around the garden the entire night like, man, this is surreal. We're here doing this. But it was an electric moment in politics. And I think it's indicative of the fact that Donald Trump not only has changed politics, he's changed the way you campaign. Coming to New York City, Madison Square Garden, sellout crowd, crazy energy that was there from the beginning to the end. It demonstrates what we're seeing all across the country. Americans have had enough. And it doesn't matter if you're here in Manhattan or if you're in Philadelphia or in Phoenix, Detroit, Milwaukee. Americans have had enough. They want a real commander-in-chief. They want Donald Trump.
Wow. Wow.
So if he takes Pennsylvania, that pretty much locks it up.
You would think so,
You
yeah.
know, he's ahead. And the mystery to me is what happened to Kari Lake in Arizona, because Trump is winning Arizona by 4 or 5 points.
Yeah.
And she is not winning the Senate race there. She's down about 6 points. I'm going, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Because, you know, she ran for governor-in-law. She was a former news anchor person. Very good. She could speak. She could do all the right things.
Yeah, she's articulate. Yeah.
So I think what happened was somebody mentioned that she kind of pulled, and I want to say this only as a comparison.
Okay.
She became a Kamala Harris in her campaign, that she kept complaining about the candidate she's running against more than what she will do if she's elected. And she was too pro-Trump. In other words, Trump's the answer. My opponent's the jerk, and I'm here to be the solution. Well, you didn't tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
You know, this is all critical stuff. And I think people, man, I should go hold a campaign school and charge $1 million to attend. Well, I have to do one.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah.
No, but I mean, there's some things that are obvious here, but I am surprised. So if he pulls off Pennsylvania, he could pull off Michigan.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Oh, wow.
If he pulls off Michigan?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just amazing up there. All right, we're looking for candy corn today.
That's it. That's all we got.
You know, I really don't like it. It's too sugary.
Yeah.
But just give me the chocolate that goes on the top of it. By the way,
what?
I got rolled over on the rolled oats yesterday.
What? What do you mean? How? Somebody took offense?
Yeah.
In what way? How can you take offense to rolled oats?
They did.
Oh, why?
And I was buying light bulbs, and I got rolled and rolled out. I was over at Grover's buying light bulbs.
Yeah.
I love you, Randy. You know that. But he worked me over on rolled oats.
Rolled oats.
Yeah, we'll agree.
So out of reach, there's nothing he has not seen before. It's just another mountain.
Representative Kim Wallen is a strong advocate for Medford and our state capital. She's dedicated to finding the best solutions for the problems facing Medford. Oregon's strict land use laws make building difficult and expensive and drive up housing costs. Kim is still working to ease restrictions and make sure that Medford residents have access to affordable homes.
I'm Kim Wallen, and I would be honored to continue serving as your state representative.
For a thriving Medford, vote for Kim Wallen. Paid for by Friends of Kim Wallen.
Your fears that seem paralyzing to you, your fears that may seem uncontrollable, they show you what you really value, what matters to you in this life. And that we have to remedy that not by valuing other things 0%, but by valuing Jesus more. Because when we know that He numbers the hairs on our head, that He controls the insignificant things like sparrows falling to the ground, we begin to think, yeah, He's got it, and I don't have to be in control. I don't need to fear.
Denise Krause is running for our new Jackson County Commissioner because a small group of powerful special interests shouldn't be able to pick our county commissioners. Denise Krause is committed to cutting waste and establishing transparency. Denise will ensure your tax dollars are spent wisely, always working hard for you and your family.
I'm Denise Krause, and I'd appreciate your vote.
First on the ballot, first for taxpayers. Denise Krause for our new Jackson County Commissioner.
The Dove Radio is your 24-hour source for encouragement and information. There's something for everyone: teaching, news, and music. 3 unique stations in one. Solid Bible teaching from trusted pillars of the faith. Relevant news, information, and talk. Plus contemporary music with a message. Listen to the Dove Radio Network throughout Southern and Central Oregon, on the Dove app, and online at thedove.us. Encouraging and informative wherever you go. The Dove Radio.
Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. By the way, all my burn buddies. Today's a burn day. Today's a burn day. Okay, today's a burn day.
Yeah, it's raining.
It's raining. Okay, well, be careful out there. All right. If you can't burn today, you may want to cover your pile. Mm-hmm. There's something about burning leaves, though. It smells so good.
I know. What is it about that that's so enjoyable?
I don't know. When I was a kid, my dad had these big piles of oak leaves, and we'd touch those things off. And they'd burn all day.
Well, I got to tell you, there's something about, camping, the same thing, or even in your fireplace at home, staring into a fire. There's something about that.
It's just it's that and popcorn. You got the day made, man. All right. Anyway, let's check in with CBN News Watch and get caught up what's going on in the Middle East today.
This is CBN News Watch.
And we begin in the Middle East, where Israel says it has drastically reduced Hezbollah's arsenal of rockets, even as the fighting between the two sides is still underway. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Israel's defense minister says Hezbollah's rocket supply has been reduced by 80%. Experts estimate that's down to 10,000 from 50,000. Still, the Iranian proxy continues to launch UAVs daily into Israel. Meanwhile, Hezbollah's new leader, Sheikh Naim Qassem, is hiding out in Iran, hoping to avoid the fate of his predecessors who were killed in Israeli airstrikes. As Iran threatens to respond to Israel's retaliatory strike on the Islamic regime this past weekend, the IDF's top general warns against it.
If Iran makes the mistake of launching another missile barrage at Israel, we will once again know how to reach Iran with capabilities that we did not even use this time, and strike very, very hard at both our capabilities and locations that we set aside for now.
In northern Gaza this week, the IDF announced it surrounded hundreds of Hamas terrorists who surrendered on the spot. On the international front, Israel is facing harsh criticism for its new laws banning UNRWA from operating in areas under its control.
It poses risks for millions of Palestinians who rely on UNRWA for essential services, including health care and primary and secondary education.
Norway says it will ask the United Nations to get the International Court of Justice to weigh in. The Palestinian representative to the UN says many of his people in Gaza are doomed without UNRWA feeding and caring for them.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are at risk of imminent death.
As we see it, there is no alternative to UNRWA.
But Knesset members say Israel has proven some UNRWA staff are members of Hamas and took part in the October 7th attack on Israel.
In all the actions that we know that the Hamas organization did in the state of Israel, UNRWA were an active part of it.
UNRWA Gaza has become a front for Hamas.
As to claims that only UNRWA can provide sufficient aid to Palestinians,
other people can do it and will do it beautifully without being terrorists.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Julie. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. Chris, great to see you. Tell us, you had an interview just today with a cabinet minister about UNRWA and Hamas. Who was he and what did he tell you?
Yeah, Wendy, I just came from that meeting and that interview. His name is Amichai Chikli. He's the Minister of Diaspora Affairs. He came with a report from his ministry about the relationship between UNRWA and Hamas and said much what we've seen in Julie's report, but even more and deeper. The relationship between the two is almost like UNRWA is Hamas, Hamas is UNRWA. He was talking about how many members of UNRWA were related to Hamas and how much UNRWA depended on this symbiotic relationship inside Gaza. Now, the idea is that they would like the UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, to take over what UNRWA is doing. UNRWA is the only ministry, or the only organization of the UN that actually perpetuates the problem. In other words, the refugees from the 1948 war have now transferred that refugee status to their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren, which perpetuates the refugee status, as opposed to the UNHCR, which the idea behind that is that they would no longer be refugees. So it's a very, very big issue right here in Israel, and Israel would like to see that UNRWA is no longer the ideological offspring of Hamas.
Let's talk about Hezbollah. How much of a blow is it to Hezbollah for their supply of rockets to be cut down so severely?
Well, it's huge, Wendy, because now we have maybe 20% of that large arsenal that had been aimed at the Jewish state. And not only are they cut down, but the leadership, the organization of these Hezbollah fighters has been so upset by what's happened, by decapitating the leadership, by that infamous time where the beepers went off and disabled, injured, or killed thousands of Hezbollah fighters. So Hezbollah is nothing what it was, just a few months ago.
He actually kicked him.
All right, well, there we go. We'll keep an eye on it. I think what's so interesting to me is that the pro-Palestinian movement and news coverage in America is having a hard time spinning this because Israel is strategically just taking the legs out from underneath them.
Yeah.
And it's not over, and there's a lot to be done. We'll see what happens. But more will be happening in Iran as well. All right, do you talk about strategic? You doing the weather? It's like brain surgery.
With an active frontal system moving across the Pacific Northwest, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain with daytime high temperatures in the low 50s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville, with a south wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Continuing down the Willamette Valley with rain and daytime highs near 51 in Corvallis, 52 in Albany, and near 53 in Salem and Eugene, with a south wind 6 to 10 miles per hour and lows in the mid-40s. In Central Oregon, rainy and breezy with snow levels at 3,300 feet, rising to around 5,500 feet this afternoon, and daytime highs near 54 in Prineville, 50 in Bend, and near 48 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny and mid-50s. Rainy and gusty winds today along the Oregon coast, with daytime highs near 59 in Coos Bay, 51 in Port Orford, 49 in Brookings, and near 57 in Crescent City. In southern Oregon, rain showers with daytime highs in the mid-50s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, a chance of rain and snow with gusty winds and highs in the low 50s. Into northern California with showers in mid-50s in Wairika, a chance of showers near 61 in Redding, but mostly sunny in mid-60s for Chico and Sacramento with lows in the low 50s. In the Bay Area, patchy fog before 10 a.m., then mostly sunny in low 60s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Decreasing clouds becoming sunny with a high near 62 in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then sunny and near 67. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
All right, there you go. Whoa! A little fog at the top of the hill this morning, but there's some white stuff on the ground, enough to stack up a little bit.
It's like they got a spotlight or some huge light there. Did you see it? It even shifted down a little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
What is that?
That's where we need to put the Dove sign right underneath that.
Hot dog. That's the Mount Ashland Lodge. Well, we see all kinds of political rancor out there. The current sitting president is calling Trump supporters garbage. There is all... isn't it interesting that, and we've been commenting on this, Kamala Harris gets asked a question, and it always goes back to Trump hatred. Yeah. It's like blame. Well, there is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, character assassinations, these things, they've been going on since we started as a country. In fact, it was on this day in history that the second president of the United States, John Adams, was born. And listen to the political intrigue around this one.
John Adams enrolled in Harvard University at age 16 and went on to teach school and study law before becoming America's second president. Adams did not fight in the Revolutionary War, but was instrumental in crafting the foundation of the American government. In 1776, he anonymously published Thoughts on Government, which proposed the three-tier system upon which the United States government is modeled: a bicameral legislature, independent judiciary, and strong executive. In 1783, Adams brokered the peace treaty with Britain that ended the American Revolution. Fellow founding father Thomas Jefferson once referred to Adams as the Colossus of Independence. The two men developed a deep friendship during the Revolutionary era, and both served in George Washington's first cabinet, Adams as vice president and Jefferson as Secretary of State. Adams, Secretary of the Treasury Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison articulated the basis of the Federalist policy, featuring above all a strong centralized government and favoring an economy based on manufacturing that long dominated the Washington and Adams presidencies. Jefferson, a Republican, favored stronger states' rights and a primarily agricultural economy. Following Washington's retirement in 1796, Jefferson and Adams ran against each other for the presidency. Adams won, and due to a procedure that gave the next highest vote-getter the vice presidency, Jefferson became his adversary's vice president. In personality as well as politics, the obstinate and hot-tempered Adams clashed with the genteel diplomatic Thomas Jefferson, and the two grew increasingly alienated during Adams' presidency. In the election of 1800, Jefferson ran against Adams, and after a bitter campaign filled with numerous character attacks, Jefferson won, and though Adams retired to Quincy, Massachusetts to write his memoirs, the bitterness between the two former friends endured. It was Adams's wife, Abigail, who initiated contact between the sworn political enemies when she wrote a letter of condolence to Jefferson upon the death of his daughter in 1812. After that, Adams and Jefferson resumed their long-halted correspondence and repaired their friendship. Adams lived to see his son, John Quincy Adams, become president in 1825. A year later, he and Thomas Jefferson died on the same day, July 4th, 1826, only hours apart.
Really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Same day, July 4th, on the anniversary of Independence Day, of our nation's birth.
And they both died.
And they both died, yeah. So they were best buds, then bitter enemies, and then they patched it up. How about that? And who did it take to step in the middle and help make amends? A wife, yeah.
So when did we become more partisan? Was that it?
I think.
But they weren't labeled D's and R's.
No, but there were, some of the principles still exist too. A strong central government, states' rights, the inner city manufacturing base as compared to an agricultural base. We know that politics are different in the country than in the city. And we still see that, don't we?
Yeah,
I mean, we're a classic example here in Oregon. We're run by the metropolitan areas, our politics. Yeah.
3 counties, basically.
Yeah, right.
And that's changing. Don't give up on Oregon. All right, we're going to take a break. We're a little bit behind time. Today is a burn day in some areas. You got to check your area.
Okay.
So it may not be in your area.
No.
But here in our backyard it is. And there's rain coming. We'll be right back.
Representative Kim Wallen is a strong advocate for Medford and our state capital. She's dedicated to finding the best solutions for the problems facing Medford. Oregon's strict land use laws make building difficult and expensive and drive up housing costs. Kim is still working to ease restrictions and make sure that Medford residents have access to affordable homes.
I'm Kim Wallen, and I would be honored to continue serving as your state representative.
For a thriving Medford, vote for Kim Wallen. Paid for by Friends of Kim Wallen.
I'm Ashley Carrasco, reporter for theDove Radio and TV. Tune in weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. and watch for my reports on Mornings on the Dove. I cover everything from news events around our region, health topics to local ministry efforts to serve our communities and spread the good news of Jesus Christ. Stream The Dove online at thedove.us, Apple and Roku TV, or download the Dove app. The Dove is news you can trust.
It can be puzzling assembling all the right pieces for your insurance needs in retirement. I'm Michelle Slate. Lighthouse Financial shines guiding light on retirement, investing, and insurance. Guiding you through the stormy seas of insurance, Lighthouse stands out as a beacon of hope, offering you wise counsel and biblically responsible investing. Lighthouse Financial. Call us today, 541-494-1034.
Hello, everyone in Doveland. My name is Todd Friel, host of Wretched TV, inviting you to join us for Wretched, the TV program I host. If you have evangelism heebie-jeebies, you're terrified to share your faith. We hit the streets, we talk to real human beings about the gospel of Jesus Christ, and you get to be a fly on the wall. We hope you'll join us for Wretched.
Weekdays and weeknights on the Dove TV.
Okay, back at it. Good morning. 10 minutes before the hour. Hey, just a little bit of a reminder. You know, we've been restored to YouTube. That's a whole nother long story. It took us 4 years.
That is a long story.
A very long story.
Yeah.
We are also been restored streaming live, and so if you're listening, watching, and you have YouTube, you can go to YouTube and watch the Dove live.
Really?
Yeah, and see what Jerry really does look like.
I wonder, how hard is that to navigate? I've never tried that. I wonder.
You go to YouTube and click live.
Okay.
Put it. And remember, the Dove is one word.
Okay.
Remember that, because some people make two words and then they have to look for it.
So you just go to YouTube and search Dove?
The Dove.
The Dove,
yeah.
live?
And then you'll see our videos and the live feed.
Excellent.
Yeah, so you can watch us.
All right.
I like the man on the street. This is really good. So Alda goes to Cal State Los Angeles and offers students free American flags.
Oh.
Let's see how the response is. Let's take a look at this.
What's up, guys? Aldo here with PragerU. Today I'm at CSU Los Angeles handing out free American flags. We're going to see who takes them and how people react. Let's go. We're handing out free American flags. You want one?
I'm all right, man. Thank you.
You guys were giving out free American flags. You want one? Spreading some patriotism here on campus today.
Good luck.
Thanks, man. Good luck? Yeah, you think it's going to be hard? Free American flags. Do you want one? Okay. Do you love America? All right. Do you love America?
No, honestly, I don't.
No? Why not?
Too many issues.
Do you have 30 seconds to talk to us about it?
I really don't.
I don't think she wanted a flag, guys. Do you love America?
Low-key, no, I'm gonna be honest.
Why?
I feel like the history of America and its continued imperialism around the world, it's kind of hard to get behind your government when they're kind of sending bombs across the ocean, to blow up brown kids.
The flag is a symbol that comes with pride, and I feel like right now, the way the country is, I don't think there's much to be proud of.
I see a set of ideals that are not achieved in this country.
Hey guys, we're handing out free American flags. Would you like one?
No.
Do you love America?
No.
Do you have 30 seconds to tell us why?
No.
No? All right. You want a flag?
Let me get one, man.
Let's go, man. Love it. So I asked you if you wanted an American flag. You were a little hesitant. Tell me why.
It's just a lot that that happens in America. I mean, I'm grateful to be in America. I'm grateful to have the freedom to do whatever I want. But America's past and the American culture doesn't always sit well with me.
We're giving out free American flags. You want one?
Sure, I'll take one.
Sweet.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I think it's meant to represent something good. It has been turned into a political symbol as of lately. You see people who are more conservative, flaunt the flag. I do think that privilege does come a play into that.
I think people here on campus and in colleges across this country are educated or indoctrinated into thinking that America is a bad place, is a racist place.
Apparently, yes, I think so. Without doing your own research, definitely it's the automatic villainization.
Want a flag? Let's go. Why did you decide to come over and take an American flag?
I think on college campuses especially, it's kind of a hushed thing to love America and to proudly love it.
We're not American flags. Would you like one? You can have as many as you'd like.
Thank you.
Do you love America?
Of course, I love America because I feel like if I was not born in America, I wouldn't been given the opportunities that I have right now and get a better opportunity for my future kids or, my future wife.
Why do you think that it's hard to talk about loving your country on college campuses? That seems like a backwards thing to be happening.
It totally does. Just over the last couple of years, especially around 2020, it was a very like aggressive environment, I guess.
Why do you love America, and what do you think this flag represents?
I mean, represents freedom. It's the reason I'm here. It's the reason we're here. It's the reason I'm at this school, This school is being paid for me by the government, and I'm grateful,
I guess that's what you get on a college campus.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess it upsets you, and it should, but that's what's being taught.
Yes, yes, they're being indoctrinated.
Indoctrinated. Got some great people coming up. Are you sleeping well?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Last night I did. Night before I did.
Okay. 11 to 4, you had to flip pretty good.
Funny you should ask.
All right. Anyway, we're going to talk to Dr. Tim Murphy about the importance of sleep coming up.
Okay. Well, we love good rescue stories, and I found a nonprofit organization that has been involved literally in thousands of rescues with people that are suffering from cognitive conditions.
Project Lifesaver is a nonprofit organization that, with the help of an amazing bracelet, helps keep people with dementia, autism, and other cognitive conditions safe with over 4,300 rescues.
You see it in the news. Patients with Alzheimer's or young children with autism wander off from their caregivers and become lost. After 24 hours, there's only a 50% survival rate. Searches can involve multiple agencies, hundreds of officers and volunteers, and thousands of dollars. Since 1999, Project Lifesaver International has provided first responders and caregivers with technology and training to quickly locate individuals with cognitive disorders who are prone to wander. The method relies on proven radio technology together with specially trained search and rescue teams. The result? 100% program success rate, with over 3,600 lives saved so far. Instead of hours or days lost, the average recovery time is 30 minutes. To learn more, visit projectlifesaver.org.
How about that? Yeah. I think it's valuable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I got to think about that one.
Well, yeah.
Do you have a chip in your dog?
No, I don't. unless we have rescue dogs. Unless somebody else chipped our dogs, but
okay.
No.
All right, Jeremiah 33:3. This is God's telephone number. Call unto me, and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. That's God's phone number. Jeremiah 33:3.
All right,
we'll be right back.
Denise Krause is running for our new Jackson County Commissioner because a small group of powerful special interests shouldn't be able to pick our county commissioners. Denise Krause is committed to cutting waste and establishing transparency. Denise will ensure your tax dollars are spent wisely, always working hard for you and your family.
I'm Denise Krause, and I'd appreciate your vote.
First on the ballot, first for taxpayers. Denise Krause for our new Jackson County Commissioner.
Stewardship begins with the knowledge that nothing belongs to us, but everything belongs to the Lord. This helps us to run a business not in the fear of lack, but in the assurance of His care and provision. Such a perspective eliminates the drive to sell and replaces it with a heart that says serve. This begins with serving our clients and coworkers with integrity and genuine care. That's why McKelly's is automotive service with a heart for God, and treating others as we ourselves would want to be treated. Our promise is to never sell our clients anything we don't believe they need. Another is to do all we can to meet other needs, such as shuttle service and loaner cars, or taking the time to really listen, even at times praying with our customers. Sometimes this means sacrifice, going above and beyond. But that's why I work for Kelly's Automotive Service, honoring God while serving people with honesty and integrity.
And I looked over at him and I says, oh gosh, he's having a stroke, because his face was not quite right. And when he was talking to me, it was all gibberish. And I says, we need to go to the doctor now. The doctors gave me the bleak outlook. I could not believe it. Then I was talking to God, and I was just saying, you know what? It is in your hands.
Watch the 700 Club Wednesday morning at 11 on the Dove TV. The Dove TV is encouraging and informative, and your home for Focus Today with Perry Atkinson, focusing on today's important subjects affecting our walk with Christ: counseling, apologetics, economics and finance, Israel and the Middle East. Only the Dove TV brings you this important hour to strengthen your life with valuable information. Watch Focus Today, weekdays only on the Dove TV. See past episodes at thedove.us.
Junior achievement is where dreams take flight. We are teaching students how to manage money to achieve financial security as adults. However, we can't do it alone. Find out how you can help.
You're watching the Dove TV, encouraging and informative for Bend and Central Oregon. Seen on KBND 14 and these Dove TV affiliates.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove, where just about anything goes, and usually does.
Yep.
I'm here because Jerry makes me come here and make him look good. I'm here because it's better than being there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. 6 days away from the election cycle. Things couldn't be more crazy than they are right now. So hold on to your hat. Calm down. Have some candy corn. And relax, okay? Chill out, baby, chill. All right, good morning to you. A lot going on in the news. We'll get you caught. Oh, yeah, by the way, he's got a pulse. The Yanks won last night, and you didn't just win. They really won.
Yeah, they really
11-4. I went to bed when it was 6-4, and I thought, well, Jerry's going to watch this. He'll tell me in the morning. Okay, but I got up early, and I checked it, and there it was. And I thought, I had to know what kind of mood you were going to be in before I came in the building.
Well, it helped my sleep last night anyway, but
now,
today's
we
new
are
day.
in never befores, right?
Yeah, because it's never been done. No team has ever come back from 3-0 and won the World Series. So there's a huge obstacle in front of us. But, today's a new day.
It is.
Yeah. And
have faith, man.
Somebody's got to do it the first time, right?
Yeah, Peter did walk on the water until he looked the other way.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so hang in there, buddy.
All right.
What else going on?
Well, today is National Publicist Day. And I didn't realize that how recent, this type of a person really was. It didn't happen until the beginning of last century, 1906. New York Times printed verbatim the very first press release written by Ivy Lee, the father of modern PR. And he was trying to smooth things over for a railroad that had derailed and a number of people had been killed. So he wrote a press release on it and then brought reporters out to the scene so they could report on it. But there are no organizations these days, are there, that work without publicists, PR people?
Well, do they end up becoming the narrative for companies? They write the narrative.
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
Everybody's got to have a publicist. That's one person you can do without. Reduce your overhead. Get rid of that one.
Moving on. Speak Up for Service Day, and this is a young people's event. It's interesting. I had never really heard of this. It's held in conjunction with the North Dakota State Lions Convention, where districts throughout North America sponsor public speaking contests. Young people share their insights on the issues of the day. Now, we heard a little bit about that in our last Aldo. And hopefully we'll be able to take a look at that again. But we hear some interesting opinions coming out of the mouths of young people, especially on college campuses, because the indoctrination is in full swing these days. But makes you want to eat candy corn, and that's all we got to eat today because it is National Candy Corn Day.
Well, 'tis the season.
Yeah, invented in the late 1800s by George Renninger of the Wonderly Candy Company. And I guess the rest, as they say, is, I wonder what inspired corn. I mean, is it a harvest thing?
The shape of it looks like kernel.
Yeah?
Probably so. You know,
Yeah.
corn's being harvested right now.
Yeah,
A lot of other things are being harvested right now. So
Oh,
I don't
well.
know, but you know, it's just raw sugar.
With food coloring.
Yeah, that's all it is. You know. Okay, well, good
That's
stuff
it.
all the way
Yeah,
around.
okay.
All right, well, here's a guy that he sweetened up a little bit in 24 hours, and he does the weather.
With an active frontal system moving across the Pacific Northwest, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain with daytime high temperatures in the low 50s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a south wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Continuing down the Willamette Valley with rain and daytime highs near 51 in Corvallis, 52 in Albany, and near 53 in Salem and Eugene with a south wind 6 to 10 miles per hour and lows in the mid-40s. In Central Oregon, rainy and breezy with snow levels at 3,300 feet rising to around 5,500 feet this afternoon, and daytime highs near 54 in Prineville, 50 in Bend, and near 48 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny and mid-50s. Rainy and gusty winds today along the Oregon coast with daytime highs near 59 in Coos Bay, 51 in Port Orford, 49 in Brookings, and near 57 in Crescent City. In southern Oregon, rain showers with daytime highs in the mid-50s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, a chance of rain and snow with gusty winds and highs in the low 50s. Into northern California with showers in mid-50s in Wairika, a chance of showers near 61 in Redding, but mostly sunny in mid-60s for Chico and Sacramento with lows in the low 50s. In the Bay Area, patchy fog before 10 a.m., then mostly sunny in low 60s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Decreasing clouds becoming sunny with a high near 62 in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then sunny and near 67. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Well, there you go. Between the Yankees winning 11-4 and snow literally on the ground at the top of Mount Ashland and in the trees, and a big truck coming into the parking lot there.
It looks like one of the groomers.
Really?
It looks like a groomer. I mean, I'm not that they're grooming or anything, but they got it fired up.
Okay, well, anyway, for those of you watching on the Dove Radio, we're looking at the top of Mount Ashland.
Yeah.
Good stuff all the way
I don't
around.
know what that is.
All right.
Anyway, what is that thing? Anyway, it's time for some grace. Here is some great encouragement from Dr. Charles Swindoll.
My all-time favorite illustration I'll close with, because it shows how short-sighted I have been. I was speaking at a conference at Forest Home out in Southern California, and I noticed that there was a couple that we had met the first night. He was a little bit shy, and she was just as charming as she could be, and wanted to talk, and he didn't want to say much, but he was friendly, but kind of kept his distance. And after we had met, we went to the first service, and first one was held in the evening, and as about the time I began to speak, he just went to sleep. Slept all the way through, and I thought, boy, what a shame. She's married to this guy that's not excited about spiritual things, and she probably dragged him here, hoping that he'd maybe get the message. And the next night, same thing. We did the song service. When I finished, and when the songs finished, and I got up to speak, he couldn't wait to just fade out. And it went on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, she said to me, could I meet with you tomorrow evening, the last night of the conference? I said, sure. Let's just wait till everybody leaves and we can just talk right down here. She said, that'd be great. She said, my husband's not going to be with me. And I thought, of course not. She wants to talk about their unhappy marriage and the difficulty that they're having. And she started, as the lights were dimming and people had left, she said, you know, you don't know this, but you're my husband's favorite preacher. And I thought, something missing here. And she said, but he has terminal cancer. And the medicine he takes makes him sleepy. So he's too embarrassed to thank you. But the hope, one of the last hopes he's had, is to be able to come where you teach in a conference. But he's so embarrassed because he can't stay awake because of that. And she said, I just want you to know how much you meant to us and to him. It just hit me like a spear. I tell that story because it's one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, because I prejudged him rather than realizing there's another whole story I didn't even know.
A huge lesson there. Huge lesson there. Slow down. Let people complete their sentences so you can hear the whole thought. All right, let's take a look at some of the top stories today. And here we are 6 days away. And one of the things that's going to happen, I noticed that both sides of the equation, if I can put it that way, or the aisle, have hundreds, not just a few, but hundreds of attorneys standing by at the various battleground states and election offices looking for problems with the voting.
Yeah.
And so yesterday, the Republican National Committee, the RNC, filed an emergency stay application with the U.S. Supreme Court after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court voted to allow provisional ballots for those who had improperly cast a mail-in ballot. So basically, people who made a mistake in maybe not securing it in the right envelope or whatever were giving another ballot. Okay, so that is to suggest that the improper ballots somehow got thrown out. We don't know that.
Yeah, right.
And so that they were given another one. Well, here's the problem is, we know that the courts have already been politicized, and if you're going to force the Supreme Court into these corners, you better have a tight case here.
Yeah.
And I would say that as all of this is going to fly, be really, really careful. And it all boils down to one question. Who is literally, legally eligible to vote in your state, in your county, and in a federal election? Who is legally eligible to vote? And anybody that votes that is not legally eligible to vote, that ballot should not be counted. So in some ways, dealing with this before the election is a good deal. Dealing with it after election does nothing but postpone things and makes life miserable.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the Supreme Court's not going to allow itself to get caught in the middle of some of these things.
Yeah.
And by not taking a position, it's political. And by taking a position, it's political. It's exactly where the Supreme Court doesn't want to go.
Wouldn't it simplify things if we just showed that we are legally eligible to vote?
Well, duh.
Just asking. Just a thought.
No. In Oregon, we register trees and raccoons. And, we register anything that moves.
Right. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan says you tax it. If it moves, tax it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't move, regulate it. Anyway, that was his whole one line. The other story is Steve Bannon's out of jail, out of prison, actually. He was in a kind of a low-security prison there at Danbury, Connecticut. Because he refused to testify before Congress. This was a contempt of Congress imprisonment that was imposed by Merrick Garland, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi. He refused to go to Congress and testify, so he got thrown in the clink for it. Well, he's out, and he's off and running. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I just don't know much about him. I look at him and go, why are we taking you serious?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he's out, and he's going to be yelling, screaming out there. So. Frank Lutz, a pollster. Frank is an interesting guy. I got to be with Frank on a couple occasions when I was chairman. The best time I was with him, he was just doing those focus groups back in the day. And Newt Gingrich, I went to the Newt Gingrich campaign school for 3 days. Darrell Howard and I did. And Frank Lutz came in and talked to us one day. And he really zeroed in on people's thinking. So now he's a full-blown, he went off and got his PhD, I believe, and he's a full-blown pollster now. So he is basically saying that Kamala Harris is blowing it because she won't answer the question. So he uses the sample of during the CNN. Now you got to remember, the CNN host really did push her on some things when that interview came up. Here's a little bit of exchange and then Frank weighing in at the end of it.
Let's talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise. Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't.
I think that clip illustrates exactly why Harris is in trouble at this point, and it's something that I don't understand why the campaign does not address. They asked her specifically, where do you stand on the wall, and what does she do? She goes and shifts it right to Donald Trump, immediately mentions him twice within the first 5 seconds. She still hasn't closed the deal. She still hasn't said to people exactly what she would do. In fact, what she should have done in the opening of that town hall is said, I want to tell you what I'm going to do in the first hour, in the first day, and in the first week. And it's going to take me 5 minutes. So, Anderson, you're going to have to sit tight. Here's what we're going to do by 1 p.m. She didn't do any of that. She hasn't told the public step by step what she's about.
I would say that the Harris campaign boils down to this. Why haven't you done in 4 years what you're claiming to do now?
Yeah.
That her whole campaign boils down to that. And the only answer to that is, Donald Trump is he's a Nazi, he's a
fascist, he's a Hitler, right?
He's all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say the other thing about Frank Lutz here, people probably, well, let me just say this: Frank Lutz understands the attention span in America now in all demographics. And when he said 5 seconds, he meant 5 seconds.
True.
And she laughed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. She
yeah.
just lost everything right there. That's her answer to everything. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. Here we are 6 days away, and have you voted?
Yes.
Saddle up.
Yes.
Vote.
Wow. How about this one, too? You know, speaking of her response or lack thereof, we know that Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage yesterday.
Yeah.
And we're still waiting for a response from the vice president. And it kind of did it diminish her call for unity in her talk yesterday,
well,
her speech?
Unity and joy, it's gone because it's just now anger and hate.
Yeah.
You know, just keep it real simple. The Democrats will blame you for what they're doing. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And so the only thing I can say is that for the president, and you know, I will give the president a little bit of a pass.
What? How?
He can't think.
Yeah.
The scripture says, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's what's in his heart. That those who oppose him and those who support Donald Trump are garbage.
Right.
Okay? He doesn't have the mental capacity to control himself.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it came out.
Right. Yep.
That's what it is. It is what it is. So, and it's raining. And it's a burn day.
That's
and what
a
does
good
that
thing.
mean? I'll tell you when we come back.
For 68 years, Ray's Food Place has been the fresh choice for your family. We're your local employee-owned grocery store. Count on us for hot buys every week and fantastic Friday one-day deals. Here's this week's one-day special offer. But remember, fantastic Friday deals are only available one day each week. Community-focused and convenient. That's Ray's Food Place. Proud to be your local employee-owned grocery store. It's time to run to Ray's.
It's a turbulent time. Our values are under attack. With so much coming at us every day, Focus Today with Perry Atkinson helps you sort it out so you can stay alert, asking important questions, bringing you an in-depth conversation from experts who have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in America and the world.
Focus Today, an hour you need to strengthen your faith and stay informed.
Watch Focus Today with Perry Atkinson weekdays on the Dove TV.
Okay, welcome back. Happy Wednesday to you. As we by the way, tomorrow will be the last day, huh?
Is the what?
Of the month.
Last day. Oh yeah, I was thinking.
Tomorrow's Halloween for those who do all those things. A lot of churches do it in reverse, which is good. You know, they have a big harvest festival. You had it at your downtown
Main Street,
Shady Cove,
Eagle Point.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Eagle Point.
Eagle Point. And
Yep.
then what happened? You guys, you were wearing your Yankee shirts.
Yeah, we had a little game, a little pitching game for the kids. It was a baseball theme, and we wore our jerseys. Oh, did we take? Oh, we took it.
I'm surprised they didn't throw Dodger dogs at you.
Oh my goodness! I know there are a lot of Dodger fans out here, but boy, we got the vocal ones.
Well, it was West Coast versus East Coast.
Oh yeah, right.
Okay,
right,
so well, anyway,
it was all in fun, But boy, we took it. It's all right. We can take it.
All right. Hey, well, listen, we're getting weather, snow at the top of the hill. Everybody's kind of happy. It looks like we're getting a repeat of last year. They kind of said that I don't know if it's La Nina or El Nino. I got to look that up.
Right. I heard La Nina.
La Nina. Yeah, okay, well, it is. You got to get your.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what that means.
But that's feminine.
Yeah, I do know that, but I don't know what it means for the weather.
Well, I mean, don't get the old gal upset.
Okay.
Be careful.
Okay, I know what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, anyway, it's producing, and so much so that the arrival of the seasonal rains and cooler weather, the Oregon Department of Forestry districts terminated fire restrictions as of the 28th. Bringing an end to the state's historic fire season. We had a bad year. We had 1,956 different fires this past year in the state of Oregon. It burned 1.94 million acres. That was just this past season. Now, most of our problems in Southern Oregon were fires around us. Years past, we had fires right in our backyard. I sit on the airport advisory committee here, and we were talking about this and the amount of air traffic that this produced. And we had over 1 million, I think it was 1.4 million gallons of retardant was pumped out of the refueling.
That's the orange stuff?
The orange stuff.
Yeah.
Was pumped into the airplanes right out our door here, about 100 yards outside our door here.
Wow.
Do you remember one time looking at that, what is it called, Do Ready or something like that, the app that you looked at?
The what? Fire Duty? No, Watch
Duty.
Watch Duty, yes.
Okay, anyway, you go to Watch Duty, and boy, it looked like the whole state was on fire at one time.
Yes, yeah.
Well, we had 1,956 fires. So anyway, the end of the fire season has been officially announced as of October 28th. Even today, as I'm speaking, I'm getting emails that today's a burn day in Jackson County.
Okay.
Now, you got to have a permit, and you got to know what you're doing, and you got to be good people about it. Most of the burn now through the month of November will be determined primarily by air quality. And so we'll keep an eye on that. But anyway, kind of,
I didn't realize there were that many fires. I know it was active.
That was huge.
But I think you put it well. None of them were right on us.
Not
so
this
that
year.
helped.
We had them all around, but the prevailing winds sucked it in. We had some bad smoke, and we've had that through the years,
Yeah.
And so anyway, we had a lot of fire. It was nice to see the DC-10s parked on the east side of the airport. At one time, we had 2 of them sitting over there. We had a bunch of the smaller fire bombers out here.
Yeah.
And so anyway, good stuff all the way around.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at Wall Street for a Wednesday morning. Let's see what's happened. Thank you, Preston, over at Smart Lawns. If you're smart, you'll get this lawn. A lot of people are now getting smart, and they're getting it. The Dow's up 148, almost 149 points. The Nas has jumped up a little over 20, and the S&P 500, 9 1/3 points. Who knows what that is? Now, you said something that I'll come back to that. In the meantime, gold is up 27.89. Silver's off a few pennies, but right at about $34 an ounce. And crude oil's up $1, $72.13. Now, were you telling me that some of the stock market rallies are anticipation of a Trump economy?
I was reading an article, and they were indicating that the strength of Wall Street and the growth that we've seen recently is based on the assumption or the expectation that Donald Trump's going to win this election. I don't know how valid, how true, or what, but it did catch my eye.
Well, let me just add to that a little bit. I was reading, why are some of these newspapers going neutral politically?
Great question.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're owned by very rich people. Millions and billionaires. Okay. In the finance world, now that's a big statement, but in the finance world, the whisper campaign is put Trump back in, because he understands economics a whole lot better than Harris does.
Exactly.
Now,
yeah.
Trump's policy isn't perfect, but he understands business. And people who have made their millions and billions realize that they could lose the values of their company if Harris gets in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the whisper campaign that's going on in the business community as to why some of these billionaires who are influential in media are stepping back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
So I just hope that Elon comes along and turns CNN into ENN.
That would be something, yeah.
I think it'd be, buy it, man, or buy ABC. Call it EBC. I don't know.
Right. Why not? Yeah.
You know.
Well,
or X, everything he does.
Yeah.
XNN.
Yeah.
I don't like the term X. I wish he'd change that. I don't like
Yeah.
it. I think it's bad marketing, but
yeah, and he likes that X thing, SpaceX, you know,
that's
the whole
okay.
deal. Yeah.
But marketing an X, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't like it.
I don't know. Well, you know, as we look at the election, I think one of the prime things that a lot of people are concerned about is election integrity.
Yeah.
Can we trust what's going on out there? And there are some things going on in the courts that make us scratch our head right now. And on Newsmax This America right now, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin strongly condemned a federal judge's decision to force Virginia to reinstate over 1,500 non-citizens back onto their voter rolls. He declared that it is outrageous.
Yeah, to be clear, this federal judge ordered Virginia to put over 1,500 people who had self-identified as non-citizens back on the voter rolls. And Tom, I got to say that again, because it's almost beyond belief that people who had self-identified as non-citizens, who we then took off, we identified through our DMV process, gave them 2 weeks notice, and they failed to affirm that they were citizens, and therefore we took them off the voter rolls. This judge has ordered us to put them back on the voter rolls. And you almost can't believe it. I mean, it is really beyond anything that any person can possibly conceive of, that we have a judge ordering us to put non-citizens back on the voter rolls. And this is why we are expediting an appeal, and we are asking for an emergency stay out of the Fourth Circuit. And if we aren't satisfied there, we're going to the Supreme Court. Because as you said, my job as governor is to go to work to make sure that our elections are fair and accurate and represent the will of citizens who vote. And that's exactly what we've done. This is why Americans have lost faith in our Justice Department.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's spot on with that. So what do you do with it? And it goes back to the simple question, who's qualified to vote?
Right.
And if you're not qualified, you don't vote.
And how do you show that you qualified?
And so what's in it for a judge? Now, is this the politicizing of the judiciary, where a judge comes along and orders something that is clearly illegal?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Supreme Court has ruled against the Biden administration for giving student loans.
Oh, yeah.
And they went ahead and did it anyway.
Right, yeah.
So where is the penalty for that?
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of this, can the governor tell the judge, have a nice day, we're not doing this? And if so, what is the penalty for that? Judge, you're telling me to break a law that you've been elected to enforce.
Interesting, yeah.
We're not going to do this. Then the question would have to be then what's the consequences of
that? That's a great question,
Does the governor go to jail for defying it? So, no, what he has to do, he's forced to go through the appeals process and put it into the emergency consideration mode and push it up the ranks as quickly as he can. We're talking 6 days here, folks.
Wow.
And there's 250 lawyers out there on the Democratic side, 560 lawyers on the Republican side in the key states.
Well, it sounds like they're going to be busy. You see situations like this, and we know what's going on in Oregon, where we had over 1,000 non-citizens registered to vote here simply because they were issued driver's license.
1,700.
Wow.
So do they get thrown out?
Yeah. What's the recourse? Yeah. What is going to happen?
Look, I don't know. You can't do it in 6 days. The answer to the voting problem is there needs to be a national referendum, and there really is, but it really needs to be enforced. Who qualifies to vote?
Yeah.
Non-citizens don't qualify to vote. You have to be a citizen, number one. Number two is clean up the voter rolls. There should be a national movement to go into every county in America and clean up the voter rolls. Basically, if you're dead, you don't get a ballot. If you move and you didn't re-register, you don't get a ballot.
Right.
It's simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
Clean it up.
Yep.
So, gosh, that makes sense. I shouldn't go down that road.
Imagine that. Yeah.
So, I realized today is candy corn day.
Yeah.
But I was thinking more something of breakfast.
Yeah. Okay. Anything come to mind?
Yeah.
And that might be, does it include hot sauce?
Oh, for you? Let me ask you this.
What?
What's a Yankee breakfast?
What's a Yankee breakfast?
You figure that out. We'll come back. You figure out what's a Yankee breakfast.
Your yard is where life happens, but it can be muddy and hard to maintain. Enjoy a maintenance-free artificial turf lawn all year round with Smart Lawn LLC. No mowing, no fertilizing, no watering. Our synthetic grass is beautiful and resilient. It's certified to be lead-free, and there's no need for pesticides. Safe for your children and pets. Smart Lawn LLC has all your artificial turf and putting green areas covered beautifully. 541-941-3538.
Representative Kim Wallen is a strong advocate in our state capitol. She is dedicated to finding the best solutions to the problems facing Medford. Kim pushed to recriminalize drugs earlier this year, but her conversations with city and county officials make it clear that the new law still has limitations. Kim has the experience to resolve these ongoing problems.
I'm Kim Wallen, and I would be honored to continue serving as your state representative.
For a safer Medford, vote for Kim Wallen. Paid for by Friends of Kim Wallen.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Jesus says this in John 15, verses 8 to 16. You bring glory to my Father. You want to bring glory to Father? Here's how you do it. You bring glory to my Father, and you show you're my disciples. You want to prove you're really a follower of Christ? You show you're my disciples by bearing much fruit. Notice that word, much fruit. God wants a big family. He says, I chose you and I've called you to bear fruit that will last. Now, I want you to notice from that verse, Jesus says, God expects me, and he expects you, and he expects this church to bear much fruit. So that's what we're going to believe God for. Now, even more important is that God promises and God guarantees your fruitfulness in life if you follow certain instructions.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Hi, good morning to you. All right, well, before we get on here.
We found it.
We found it.
We found it.
I asked Jerry going into the break, what's a Yankee breakfast?
Okay.
And there is such a thing.
There is. It's the American Big Breakfast. It's called a full Yankee breakfast, and it includes 2 eggs, 2 bacon, home fries or hash browns, plus Texas toast or pancakes, all served with a jar of sweet tea. That's a full Yankee breakfast. Have some.
You could do that this morning.
I can do that right
Yanks
now.
won last night.
I can do that right now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Have that for dinner tonight in hopes of they win the next one.
Yeah.
So they have a game tonight.
Yep.
Then they travel.
Then the day off tomorrow, and then they wrap it up in L.A. If we get past tonight, then they go to L.A.
Okay.
So.
All right. Anyway, so there is a such thing as a Yankee breakfast. There you go. All right. In the meantime, with all the things going on, let's keep an eye on the Middle East and get caught up as we check in with our friends at CBN Newswatch. CBN Newswatch, they're right here. What happened, guys? Okay.
We almost got...
This is CBN Newswatch.
And we begin in the Middle East, where Israel says it has drastically reduced Hezbollah's arsenal of rockets, even as the fighting between the two sides is still underway. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Israel's defense minister says Hezbollah's rocket supply has been reduced by 80%. Experts estimate that's down to 10,000 from 50,000. Still, the Iranian proxy continues to launch UAVs daily into Israel. Meanwhile, Hezbollah's new leader, Sheikh Naim Qassem, is hiding out in Iran, hoping to avoid the fate of his predecessors who were killed in Israeli airstrikes. As Iran threatens to respond to Israel's retaliatory strike on the Islamic regime this past weekend, the IDF's top general warns against it.
If Iran makes the mistake of launching another missile barrage at Israel, we will once again know how to reach Iran with capabilities that we did not even use this time, and strike very, very hard at both our capabilities and locations that we set aside for now.
In northern Gaza this week, the IDF announced it surrounded hundreds of Hamas terrorists who surrendered on the spot. On the international front, Israel is facing harsh criticism for its new laws banning UNRWA from operating in areas under its control.
It poses risks for millions of Palestinians who rely on UNRWA for essential services, including health care and primary and secondary education.
Norway says it will ask the United Nations to get the International Court of Justice to weigh in. The Palestinian representative to the UN says many of his people in Gaza are doomed without UNRWA feeding and caring for them.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are at risk of imminent death.
As we see it, there is no alternative to UNRWA.
But Knesset members say Israel has proven some UNRWA staff are members of Hamas and took part in the October 7th attack on Israel.
In all the actions that we know that the Hamas organization did in the state of Israel, UNRWA were an active part of it.
UNRWA Gaza has become a front for Hamas.
As to claims that only UNRWA can provide sufficient aid to Palestinians,
other people can do it and will do it beautifully without being terrorists.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Julie. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. Chris, great to see you. Tell us, you had an interview just today with a cabinet minister about UNRWA and Hamas. Who was he and what did he tell you?
Yeah, Wendy, I just came from that meeting and that interview. His name is Amichai Chikli. He's the Minister of Diaspora Affairs. He came with a report from his ministry about the relationship between UNRWA and Hamas and said much what we've seen in Julie's report, but even more and deeper. The relationship between the two is almost like UNRWA is Hamas, Hamas is UNRWA. He was talking about how many members of UNRWA were related to Hamas and how much UNRWA depended on this symbiotic relationship inside Gaza. Now, the idea is that they would like the UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, to take over what UNRWA is doing. UNRWA is the only ministry, or the only organization of the UN that actually perpetuates the problem. In other words, the refugees from the 1948 war have now transferred that refugee status to their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren, which perpetuates the refugee status, as opposed to the UNHCR, which the idea behind that is that they would no longer be refugees. So it's a very, very big issue right here in Israel, and Israel would like to see that UNRWA is no longer the ideological offspring of Hamas.
Let's talk about Hezbollah. How much of a blow is it to Hezbollah for their supply of rockets to be cut down so severely?
Well, it's huge, Wendy, because now we have maybe 20% of that large arsenal that had been aimed at the Jewish state. And not only are they cut down, but the leadership, the organization of these Hezbollah fighters has been so upset by what's happened, by decapitating the leadership, by that infamous time where the beepers went off and disabled, injured, or killed thousands of Hezbollah fighters. So Hezbollah is nothing what it was, just a few months ago.
Okay, well, there we go. We'll keep an eye on it, but they are slowly dismantling it. One problem at a time.
Yeah.
All right, let's check out a guy that's totally there.
With an active frontal system moving across the Pacific Northwest, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain with daytime high temperatures in the low 50s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville with a south wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Continuing down the Willamette Valley with rain and daytime highs near 51 in Corvallis, 52 in Albany, and near 53 in Salem and Eugene with a south wind 6 to 10 miles per hour and lows in the mid-40s. In Central Oregon, rainy and breezy with snow levels at 3,300 feet, rising to around 5,500 feet this afternoon, and daytime highs near 54 in Prineville, 50 in Bend, and near 48 in Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, sunny and mid-50s. Rainy and gusty winds today along the Oregon coast with daytime highs near 59 in Coos Bay, 51 in Port Orford, 49 in Brookings, and near 57 in Crescent City. In southern Oregon, rain showers with daytime highs in the mid-50s for Grants Pass, Medford, and Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, a chance of rain and snow with gusty winds and highs in the low 50s. Into northern California with showers in mid-50s in Wairika, a chance of showers near 61 in Redding, but mostly sunny in mid-60s for Chico and Sacramento with lows in the low 50s. In the Bay Area, patchy fog before 10 a.m., then mostly sunny in low 60s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Decreasing clouds becoming sunny with a high near 62 in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then sunny and near 67. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Okay, there you go. Good morning to you. Beautiful shot at the top of Mount Ashland.
Yeah.
And gosh, that is really, really pretty.
Man.
Sunrise between the two cloud layers and snow sitting on the actual, look, snow on that chair.
Yeah, it's looking very wintry, very promising. All right.
Well, listen, we are continuing to highlight some candidates here, and how this operates is kind of interesting. So today we're talking to Noah Robertson. He's a candidate for Senate District Number 2, which takes in a big portion of, I would say, Josephine County, and then a little bit of Jackson County. He'll be following up from his father, who he was his chief of staff. And then his father is not running for re-election for health issues, and so Noah stepped up. This is an interesting family. All the children have PhDs.
That's amazing. Wow.
Anyway, here's Noah and up for re-election or up for election. Well, welcome to Vote 2024, and I'm Perry Atkinson. Delighted to have in the studio with us today, Senate candidate for District 2 in Southern Oregon, Noah Robertson. Certainly no stranger to politics, as he has been his father's chief of staff since he was elected. Now he's running for his father's position. Good to see you.
It's great to see you.
Good. Thanks for coming in, and you're coming down to the wire here. How's the campaign going?
It's going very well.
Good.
We're very optimistic.
You got kind of an interesting district. You serve a lot of Josephine counties, a little bit of Jackson County, about 30%, and a little bit in Douglas County. Kind of a weird district.
It is, especially so most of the voters are in Josephine County, but we have a little bit scattered all over.
Good for you.
Yes.
All right, you worked with your father up there, so you know the drill.
That's right.
And you know that you're going in, and a lot of things are not in your favor, but you're there. And I want to say thank you for being there. What are some of your key items? Why are you doing this?
Well, I would like to be able to help fix things because I think our state's in trouble. I'm particularly interested in education because the educational system, if the children can't get good educations, if they can't learn to read at a young age, it just really spoils their outlook, their long-term goals in life.
Right.
So I'm particularly interested because we know we have a background in homeschooling.
Right.
And in homeschooling, it's different. You're looking at what actually works.
Right.
And so we have our method works. There's a lot of methods that work, but you're just trying to educate children. In the state schools, that isn't the way it is. Instead, it's a question of what do the teachers' unions want, what is politically acceptable. And of course, now we have a problem with them trying to push all sorts of garbage on our children as well.
Yeah.
So I'm particularly interested in the reading because we started looking at it and saying, there's a lot of things you could fix. But if a child can learn to read at a young age, even with a poor environment, they can learn a lot of things because they can read.
It's been said, and I think you can back this up, that most of these school districts in the state of Oregon, the students are reading below grade average.
That's right. According to their standards, I think it's something like a third of them are passing their standards, and children can do far better than that.
So what's interrupting this? Why is this happening?
I think it's because of the methods they use and the fact that they're not actually concentrating on reading. Homeschoolers will teach a child to read in about 6 months. Well, my sister's teaching her children at 3 years old. I mean, this is not that hard to do, actually. But even at an older age works fine. You just use phonics, one-on-one instruction for about 6 months, and the children read pretty well. And then you get them reading, and then they just read a lot of things, and
away they go.
And away they go. My sister Bethany visited once with her children, and you can give a courtesy. My dad gave her a courtesy on the Senate floor, and he mentioned in the courtesy that her 8-year-old daughter had read 900 books at that point, 900 full-length books.
Wow.
What I thought was most interesting about that is not a single legislator in the building came up to talk to her or say, this is working pretty well. We're worried about the education in Oregon. You seem to know what you're doing.
Right.
Can you give us some advice? It's more political. See, they're less interested in actual solutions than what the unions want.
Both you and your dad have gone on to higher education. You both have your PhDs. That didn't happen overnight.
No, that's right. No way. And actually, my 5 brothers and sisters all earned PhDs.
Really?
In technical subjects. I have a PhD in chemistry. 2 veterinarians in the family. Joshua and Matthew both have PhDs in nuclear engineering. My sister Bethany has a master's in nuclear engineering. That's another story. She actually earned a PhD. But no, it worked well. We just learned to read, got good backgrounds in math, and then just went forward.
How do you think the state's functioning?
The state?
Yeah. Overall, how are we functioning?
I think it's very poor.
Okay.
I think that the government is too much in the way of practically anything in the way of industries. They make it difficult to build houses. They tax us into the ground. We have all these agencies regulating us. Talk to the farmers about just trying to get water. Mm-hmm. And it's just too much bureaucracy and too much government control. And then you look at just the way they spend money. Like right now they're renovating the Capitol building, $600 million, $2,500 a square foot. We figured my dad's Senate office is a $1.6 million contribution. I don't know what they did in there. I think they improved the wiring a little.
Yeah.
It's just, and we can't figure out how they can even spend that much money. And it's just out of control. And so everywhere you look, every government project seems to be inflated in cost by somewhere between a factor of 5 and 10 or more. And I think it's just because there's no accountability. They just pass out these money in large lumps to various companies.
Is it true from your perspective, now you've been there as your dad's chief of staff, so you've been there through, the drill, how this thing operates. But is it true that even the Democrats are realizing this state isn't working? They may have caused a problem, but now they're not even getting their agenda through. It's so bureaucratic.
Well, I think the Democrats are sort of in denial about it. The Democrat agenda has gone off the rails in many ways. Mm-hmm. There's elements in the Democrat Party that have pushed them into doing things that are just, I just don't think some of these things even the Democrats support. But the Democrats all get behind them. They vote as a bloc. And so I think there's probably some of them that are realizing that this is just too much. But I think a lot of them are just in denial. They've got control to just try something else.
How would you rate the business climate? And the reason I bring that up, you just mentioned it, we seem to be regulating and taxing businesses maybe out of the state. How close are we from losing big businesses?
I think we're very close. I think we're losing small businesses all the time. We lost, they had that big fight over the semiconductor industry up in Portland, and they said, okay, we're going to fix that by giving all sorts of incentives to chip companies that want to come in. But you can't correct this by saying, oh, we've hurt one industry, we're going to give you some breaks and let you in. I think you're close to losing everything, and especially if they get this ballot measure where they want a gross receipts tax of 3%, which compounds, you're going to lose a lot of businesses because they're going to say, we'll go elsewhere.
Now, that's 3% on those who do $25 million or more. with the incentive that each Oregonian would get $1,600 tax. I mean,
yes.
Is that buying a vote or what?
That is buying a vote, and they're hoping that they don't notice that the price of everything they buy is going to go up and take their $1,600.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. But that's especially bad for. So you say go down to Home Depot to buy something, the price is going to be up automatically 3%. But then all their suppliers, it's a gross receipts tax.
Mm-hmm.
You have to charge 3%. So anybody that's supplying a store that can will move out of state. There's just no point in being here.
Okay, so the other thing is you're also in a district that has a lot of forestry. How do you think we're doing in that department?
I'm very poor. A few years ago, the last mill in our area closed. We've got all sorts of trees we can cut. The owner of the mill at the time told us he could keep his mill running just from the dead and dying trees he could see from his mill. They won't let them cut them. So they won't manage the forest, so we have a wildfire problem. Their response to that is to try to put further controls on private property and say we're going to come in and tell you what you can do there, when really these fires start mostly on public lands and they're not being properly managed. I don't think the people managing the fire suppression are very good at it either, because they let these things burn. And I'm not talking about the firefighters on the ground, but they let them burn out of control. They get going and then they fight them. The whole system, in terms of just cutting back on the fuels and then trying to keep the fires down and then just putting them out when they're there. When we had a lot of people in the forest cutting trees and managing the forest, when a fire started up, they'd run in and put it out. Yeah. And we didn't have a problem.
What are some other concerns you have besides education?
Well, I'm interested in too much control over everybody. Taxes.
Right.
I'm concerned that the agencies regulating everybody to the grounds, the small businesses. I'm more of a let's get the government out of our way type of person.
Okay. All right, so Noel Robertson running for Senate District number 2, which takes in about 60% of Josephine County, about 30% of Jackson County, and about 0.5% of Douglas County.
It's a little bit of Douglas County.
A little bit of Douglas County. It's kind of an interesting thing there. Like I said, you were your dad's chief of staff, so you know how the game is played. And looking forward to this session. So we'll see how it goes, but looks like you'll be in session this next coming year, and away you go.
Yes, we have an election coming up. We're optimistic about our chances, and I'm looking forward to trying to do some good.
Yes. All right, check it out. Noel Robertson, Senate District number 2 in the state of Oregon. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Representative Kim Wallen is a strong advocate in our state capital. She is dedicated to finding the best solutions to the problems facing Medford. Kim pushed to recriminalize drugs earlier this year, but her conversations with city and county officials make it clear that the new law still has limitations. Kim has the experience to resolve these ongoing problems.
I'm Kim Wallen, and I would be honored to continue serving as your state representative.
For a safer Medford, vote for Kim Wallen. Paid for by Friends of Kim Wallen.
We're to encourage one another. Has God touched your life? Many of us have a testimony, a story to tell. The Dove TV wants to know so we can encourage others needing hope. If you'd like to share yours, record a video of your story and send to the Dove.
Go to thedove.us/a story to tell for complete details.
We'll be playing these videos over the air to encourage lives. Consider sharing your story. From the Dove TV, encouraging and informative.
Bulls, bears, and other market beasts. How can you be sure they won't eat your investments alive? I'm Michelle Slate. Lighthouse Financial shines guiding light on retirement, investing, and insurance. As you navigate the stormy seas of investing, Lighthouse stands out as a beacon of hope, offering you wise counsel and biblically responsible investing. Lighthouse Financial. Call us today, 541-494-1034.
You might have said, as many people have said to me, Alex, it's too late. I've wasted years. I'm too far gone. Please don't believe that lie. You can call out to Christ. He will hear you. He will receive you. He has a plan for you. You might have a short time left in this world, you think. God still has a plan for you. And today, God's will for your life will become operative as you turn to Him.
Okay, welcome back. Well, universities being what they are these days, it's kind of fun to do the Q&A. The man on the street, Aldo's out there. He's from PragerU. He went to Cal State Los Angeles to offer the students these little American flags. Would you like to have American flag? Their response is kind of interesting. Take a look.
What's up, guys? Aldo here with PragerU. Today I'm at CSU Los Angeles handing out free American flags. We're going to see who takes them and how people react. Let's go. We're handing out free American flags. You want one?
I'm all right, man. Thank you.
You guys were giving out free American flags. You want one? Spreading some patriotism here on campus today.
Good luck.
Thanks, man. Good luck? Yeah, you think it's going to be hard? Free American flags. Do you want one? Okay. Do you love America? All right. Do you love America?
No, honestly, I don't.
No? Why not?
Too many issues.
Do you have 30 seconds to talk to us about it?
I really don't.
I don't think she wanted a flag, guys. Do you love America?
Low-key, no, I'm gonna be honest.
Why?
Like, I feel like the history of America and its continued, like, imperialism around the world, it's kind of hard to get behind, like, your government when they're kind of, like, sending bombs across the ocean, you know, to blow up brown kids.
The flag is a symbol that comes with pride, and I feel like right now, the way the country is, I don't think there's much to be proud of.
I see a set of ideals that are not achieved in this country.
Hey guys, we're handing out free American flags. Would you like one?
No.
Do you love America?
No.
Do you have 30 seconds to tell us why?
No.
No? All right. You want a flag?
Let me get one, man.
Let's go, man. Love it. So I asked you if you wanted an American flag. You were a little hesitant. Tell me why.
It's just a lot that that happens in America. I mean, I'm grateful to be in America. I'm grateful to have the freedom to do whatever I want. But America's past and the American culture doesn't always sit well with me.
We're giving out free American flags. You want one?
Sure, I'll take one.
Sweet.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I think it's meant to represent something good. It has been turned into a political symbol as of lately. You see people who are more conservative, you know, flaunt the flag. I do think that privilege does come a play into that.
I think people here on campus and in colleges across this country are educated or indoctrinated into thinking that America is a bad place, is a racist place.
Apparently, yes, I think so. Like, without doing your own research, definitely it's the automatic villainization.
Want a flag? Let's go. Why did you decide to come over and take an American flag?
I think on college campuses especially, it's kind of a hushed thing to love America and to proudly love it.
Handing out American flags, would you like one? Can I have two? You can have as many as you'd like. Thank you. Do you love America?
Of course, I love America because I feel like if I was not born in America, I wouldn't have been given the opportunities that I have right now and get a better opportunity for my future kids or, you know, my future wife.
How do you think that it's hard to talk about loving your country on college campuses? That seems like a backwards thing to be happening.
It totally does. Just over the last couple years, especially around 2020, it was a very like aggressive environment, I guess.
Why do you love America, and what do you think this flag represents?
I mean, represents freedom. It's the reason I'm here. It's the reason we're here. It's the reason I'm at this school, you know? This school is being paid for me by the government, and I'm grateful, you know?
Well, there's hope.
Yeah.
There's a little bit here and there. All right, Jeremiah 33:3. By the way, that's been known as the telephone number to heaven. Call unto me, and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Jeremiah 33:3.
That's great. The telephone number of heaven.
Yeah, there you go.
That's cool.
Yeah, give it a shot.
All right.
Denise Krause is running for our new Jackson County Commissioner because a small group of powerful special interests shouldn't be able to pick our county commissioners. Denise Krause is committed to cutting waste and establishing transparency. Denise will ensure your tax dollars are spent wisely, always working hard for you and your family.
I'm Denise Krause, and I'd appreciate your vote.
First on the ballot, first for taxpayers. Denise Krause for our new Jackson County Commissioner.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian owned and operated, pet friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
They're fun-loving twins. They love God, hunting, and pranking each other. Join the Hamptons for outdoor adventure every weekend on Twin Factor. Brought to you by Black Flag Armory in Medford and Grants Pass. Truly excellent service.
The Bible, when you think about it, is the ultimate group project. Think about this. It was written by over 40 different authors over a period of 1,500 years. Authors came from various countries. Most of them didn't know one another. They used a variety of styles, and yet it all fit together perfectly. It has one unified theme, and that theme is Jesus Christ.
theDove.us, your place online to stay encouraged and informed. Enrich and grow your faith with reliable, inspiring content. Anywhere you are, you can stream the Dove TV's faith-based programming. Listen to the Dove Radio. Ask for prayer. Get the Word for You Today devotional. Plus, download the Dove app. Go to theDove.us, a trustworthy Christian media platform that will change your life forever. Make it yours today. Greg Laurie, encouraging viewers to know God and make Him known. Harvest, Tuesdays and Wednesdays on the Dove TV, encouraging and informative.
Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Delighted and honored to have back with us today Dr. Tim Murphy. He's a licensed psychologist and the clinical director there at the Fortis Future, a center focusing on the care of veterans, military, and first responders with PTSD. Dr. Murphy was also elected to the U.S. House of Representatives from Pennsylvania's 18th Congressional District 8 times, so he has those stitches. He's the author of a must book. This book belongs in every pastor or minister's library. It's called Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. This is a great resource. You can go to drtimmurphy.com is his website and check out all of his other articles and things there, drtimmurphy.com. Dr. Murphy, good to see you, friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Great to be with you again.
Okay, I have to ask you. I mean, we are 6 days away. How does Pennsylvania look for the election?
It really is a hair's breadth on either side.
Really?
There is what's interesting is in the last couple of weeks, what's been breaking is the news about the insults against Christians. Whether it's someone calling out at a rally for Vice President Harris about Jesus, she said, you're in the wrong rally. More and more attention is being paid to their agenda about supportive of trans surgeries, puberty blockers for anybody, let alone felons. And also Vice President candidate Walz, who in his state signed legislation which is there to block parents from knowing what's going on with their children. I think a lot of people really didn't know all of what this meant in terms of removing parental rights, promoting that agenda of permanent surgical changes on children, as well as the anti-religious aspect. So I think that's swaying a lot of Christian votes, a lot of religious votes, and quite frankly, a lot of Jewish votes. I was at a rally yesterday for the Jewish community who are very concerned about their anti-Israel stance. Those could be a big difference in this state. So we'll see what happens. I think right now it's tipping a little bit more towards Trump, but we'll see.
Okay. By the way, before we get into other things, with all of this transgender surgery, is it producing another level of PTSD?
Well, a great question. What we have here is psychologists who are culpable in this whole mess of scientific distortion and perversion. There are children who come in and parents say, my child's depressed or anxious, and psychologists are now pushing this agenda. I was at one presentation where they said they decorate their office with pride flags and rainbows, et cetera, and they set the child up with other people who are in the LGBTQ community. And they say, well, if you're depressed, have you ever considered the reason is you might be a boy in a girl's body or a girl in a boy's body, and there could be changes. And then after a little bit of interview, they will put the child in that direction. And then you have a situation where the children and adolescents continue to feel some angst about their own bodies. It's a natural process. And rather than go to and say, let's work on reality and help you understand that life is tough, and life is not fair, we'll move in some direction, they push this other thing. And I believe what happens with children, it doesn't resolve it. We actually see a massive study that was done out of Denmark found the increase in suicide attempts that required medical attention went up 7 times, so 700-some%. And the incidence of suicide deaths went up 3.5 times. That's a massive increase in those. We don't even know how many were suicide attempts that did not require medical attention. But the point is, this idea of handing out puberty blockers and trans surgery for children who are not old enough to drive or vote or buy liquor or get a tattoo or get their ears pierced or even rent a car because the brain is not mature enough, we're putting permanent changes of castration, hysterectomies, and mastectomies on children. No wonder children are struggling with this. The answer is not the agenda of saying, let's just push this on them. So is that bringing more trauma? Absolutely. But here's the thing. You can't go back. The infertility rates, the problems that occur with this, you can't put parts back on after they've been removed. And I think this may require some federal legislation or, quite frankly, a lot of lawsuits, because even the plastic surgeons are saying this isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. A lot of research saying this is wrong. The science does not support this myth of how this is going to cure the problems.
I know that's painful to you to talk about. I guess I'm also curious how your psychological community can get behind this. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, what are they thinking that somehow going against nature and nature's God is somehow okay?
Well, here's the extra perversion. There's a daily posting that the Pennsylvania Psychological Association has, which we can post things on, comments. It could be anything from, hey, here's a cool journal article, or I'm looking for a referral in the city. Does anybody know anybody? But some people were posting on their issues about this, in particular the CAS report put together by the Ministry of Health in England, in Great Britain, and saying these issues about that research doesn't support having these trans surgeries. In fact, United Kingdom and the Scandinavian countries says we're not doing this anymore for children. Well, this CAS report, someone posted this on the Pennsylvania Psychological Association site, and some other people said, oh, this is triggering bad feelings. So rather than take a scientific approach and say, let's really have a calm discourse and let's look at this research, what was posted is, you cannot post anything on this. We're going to pull it off. And if you are posting this, we're going to refer you for counseling. Some states like Virginia even require psychologists and counselors to get training in how to counsel kids in the direction of having these gender dysphoria trans changes occur. And if you refuse to take on a case and saying, I don't agree with this for religious reasons, you actually are in trouble. And some people are actually, their licenses are threatened. We are required to counsel a child in one direction, but banned from counseling someone in another direction. So if someone came to us and said, I'm a man, I have feelings towards other men, I want to resolve this, can you help me with this? We are forbidden, because that's called conversion therapy. We're forbidden from helping someone with that. This is grossly wrong. If a client comes and says, I want help with this, to be told because someone's sitting somewhere else with their political agenda, their bias say you can't do this, that's seriously wrong. So I'm hoping that there can be a backlash about this. But right now in Pennsylvania, we're absolutely silenced on this. Duct tape is over our mouths. We're not allowed to talk about this. There's no presentations on our scientific conferences, no postings in our journal. This is pretty sad.
I don't know. My brain's on tilt with this. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe you've thought this through, especially being in Congress. I don't know if the lawsuits could fly that would change the thinking. I mean, sooner or later, I don't know if they're immune because there's policy that allows for this, but this will catch up with this. This will be devastating. It already is, but I mean, this is going to hit a wall, and it may be more than a generation to fix it.
Well, and unfortunately, this is a harm that cannot be undone among children who go through this. Look, we understand after someone's 18, they'll have the freedom, they can make some decisions, but there's no way we should be pushing this agenda on children from adults who ought to know better. I even wrote to the Pennsylvania Psychological Association because they said, hey, it's time to renew your membership. Do you want to do it? And I wrote, it says, answer these questions for me first. Are you going to open up scientific discussion on this? Are we allowed to do this? Are you finally going to allow comments and perhaps presentations at our annual conference about the benefits or the issues involved with faith-based counseling? Crickets, no response. But I think this is going to be resolved more in lawsuits, and I'm hoping that occurs. There's also a number of Supreme Court decisions. I think it'll ratchet up to that level where people are going to challenge these times when they're trying to take away counselors' licenses for not buying into the agenda. You know, when you look at this paradigm shift, how many times in history has there been something where someone has come up with some radical policy? They used to think that red M&Ms caused attention deficit disorder. They used to think that moms who were cold and indifferent caused autism. They used to think, this sounds kind of bizarre, but a woman's womb wandered around their body and that was the cause of their hysterical emotions. Well, we put those aside and says those are ridiculous concepts. I'm hoping we can get to this level too, but it's going to take some time because people have grabbed onto this as a political agenda that they worship rather than look at this in terms of cold, hard facts of science.
So is the fear of being liable for this, has that been taken away?
Well, when you're required to act a certain way, I think people are rallying behind this as well. I have to do this. And I think, quite frankly, a number of counselors says, I don't want to challenge this. I don't want to take this on. I just want to do my work in my office. It's going to require some boldness. Some people say, I am going to fight back. We are required, I think, in our faith to sometimes stand up against the wrong. It takes that moment where instead of being cast in the fire, says, go ahead, put me in the fire, turn up the heat. My God's going to be with me on this. It's going to take that kind of courage to fight back. And quite frankly, I hope these lawsuits succeed.
Okay. Thank you for letting me go off on that a little bit. I think you help us a lot to understand that a little bit more. I know we want to talk about sleep today. I didn't get much last night. What did I do to myself?
This is, you can't, it used to be you could turn off your TV or radio and at least avoid the ads at this point because it's everything. Now my phone dings several times an hour. Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you voted? Here's more information you need. We're inundated. But this is part of what happens in marketing in terms of getting you persuaded to do just one thing. They just want you to do one thing, vote for one person, and but part of marketing is also getting to be averse to the other side of things. They don't want us listening to the other point of view. They want us to have a visceral reaction to the other point of view. And look what happens. People may see the flag and it's either favorable or unfavorable, as you were just showing in your segment there, the way students are reacting to the flag. You may have people have different reactions to what's happening at the border, what's happening in the economy, anything. And it has become so emotional now, we've lost our minds in terms of the ability to think rationally through this. No wonder we can't sleep. When the brain is ramped up that much every day, getting us to have an emotional response and giving up on our rational mind, the brain is having a hard time calming down. We have this surge of adrenaline in our system all day long. Like it or not, we get angry and we really can't sleep, and that's pretty toxic.
So is 8 hours the goal?
Yes, it is the goal. I mean, some people say, I can get by with 4 or 5. You may for a while. If you're energized, and there are some biologically prone people who may do that. But for the most part, that 7 to 9 hours is extremely important. Because even if you think you can handle that, the brain has a very important function it has at night. So the rest of our body, our cells are pushing out waste material, and that goes out through our veins into our kidneys and excreted from the body. The brain is different. When brain cells are burning energy, it's only 2% of the body mass, but 25% of the energy is the brain. That's going to have a lot of waste material coming out like smokestacks in a power plant. But that doesn't just go into the veins and just discharge. What happens is let's say this is a vein, and what happens is glial cells are supportive cells. And the cerebral spinal fluid, which actually at nighttime increases in volume by about 60%. During the day, these glial cells are tight. During the night, they open up, they relax. And when they do that, the cerebrospinal fluid with its amyloid proteins and other waste materials can get into the veins and be discharged in the body. But it requires time to do this. Like the cleanup crew in the office building needs time. They can't just go boom and the office is clean. So you need time to do that. If you don't do that, that waste material, those proteins build up over time. And that's why if you're not getting enough sleep, your memory is not good. You get more forgetful. You're more prone to illnesses and disease. Over time, more dementia and Alzheimer's are more likely to occur for you. So you need that kind of sleep for biological reasons to function optimally day to day. You may think you can get by, but over time it's going to catch up to you.
Where does sleep apnea play into this?
Oh, well, sleep apnea, that issue where you're not sleeping as well because your breathing is interrupted, can cause you to keep waking up. And so you're not getting into a deep sleep and you're not getting enough oxygen. And so that deprivation also has an impact. People may find they're awake during the night. They can't get back to sleep. The oxygen deprivation at times can affect them as well. So those are all aspects that interrupt sleep and interrupt the health of the brain in terms of what it needs to function optimally.
Wow. Okay, so I guess sleep is something we all struggle with. And you make an earlier point is about some of the influences coming in. Do you have a recommendation of kind of decompressing before we go to bed? I mean, like
yes,
turning the TV off and taking a walk. I mean, kiss the dog. What should we do here?
Kiss the dog. There's several things we should do just for decent sleep hygiene. And I actually write about them in my book, a chapter there on sleep. And so what happens? You got to put your phone away. Should not look at this because the bright light actually alerts the brain that you need to stay awake. The sun is up. The blue light of the phone does that. So I really recommend don't spend the last hour or two of your evening going through emails and texts. It's not going to be there. You don't have to have your phone on, and I put it on silent. If you're going to do something evening, watch a calm TV show, read a book. Something there, let your body begin to relax and go down. Don't eat a surge of sugars or alcohol before you go to bed either, because that's going to energize your body. It's also important when you are asleep, a dark, cool room as much as you can. And then if you do wake up during the night, don't say, well, as long as I'm awake, I think I'm going to go check my emails, a text message. I like to tell people this. Look, if somebody really important needs to get hold of you, they'll call you. When I used to have meetings at the White House, they always had us leave our cell phones in another room. And I said, and someone said, what if my staff needs me? He says, well, actually, you're going to meet with the President of the United States. So let's just assume you're at the top of the food chain in information. You don't need that. Well, the same thing at night. That's our quiet time. And here's the other thing, too. Pray. The time at night to spend a few minutes in thoughtful prayer, instead of rehashing what has been, be grateful is very, very important. I like to think of anxiety as going over the past. You've heard the definition before. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. Well, here's Dr. Tim's new definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting it to be the same.
Yeah.
We really force things to be the same because we go over it and over and over it, and we want it to be the same. It sounds crazy. But the idea is when we have a traumatic memory and our mind is caught up in this infinite loop, we begin to think, well, this is the way life is going to be. I can't possibly change. Well, no, actually, it can change. And the freeing up of prayer tells us it can if we get caught up in the gratefulness with the Lord and look at the messages that come through there, that you don't have to be anxious about yesterday or tomorrow. Focus on now. And the most important thing is get some rest.
All right, let me take a quick break. Dr. Tim Murphy with us. drtimmurphy.com is the website. And friends, get a copy of this book. Make sure you have it in your library. You will use it. It's a resource. You'll end up writing probably in the margins. And if you do any kind of people work, management, counseling, pastoring, get a copy of this book, The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. We'll be right back.
Representative Kim Wallen is a strong advocate for Medford and our state capital. She's dedicated in finding the best solutions for the problems facing Medford. In a challenging economy and ongoing housing shortage, Kim is working to repeal laws that fail to protect us from the threat of fire, and instead she is pushing for modernized, active forest management.
I'm Kim Wallen, and I would be honored to continue serving as your state representative.
For a healthier Medford, vote for Kim Wallen. Paid for by Friends of Kim Wallen.
I'm holding the many prayer requests that arrive here at the Dove. We're grateful that you include us with your prayer needs. As a staff, know that we join you and pray over your requests for God's help. Have a prayer need? Let us know by going to thedove.us.
Wonder never stops. The only thing more unstoppable is our mission to help it thrive.
I was asking him, what scriptures have the greatest impact on you? Now, the thing that has the greatest impact on him is the story of how God gave his son, sacrificed his son. Because they're saying our gods are, now they know now those gods are demons, they demand sacrifice from us in order to not oppress us or not do bad things from us. So we're always offering sacrifices to appease them. But she said, hearing about a God who sacrificed his son because he loved us, watching him heal people without them giving any money or sacrifice, that kind of God, they had a hard time understanding. But when you bring the Word of God in the mother tongue and allow people to listen, the Word of God enters into the very center of their soul and spirit.
Dr. Tim Murphy with us today. Again, we're talking about the importance of sleep. By the way, his book, again, I can't say enough about this, it's called The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. There is so much information and resourceful information in this book. Available online. Check it out. Christ Cure by Dr. Tim Murphy. Talking about sleep. Does the Bible say anything about sleep?
I was hoping you'd ask me a question about that. So, interestingly enough, there's a passage in the Bible which we're all familiar with, but I want you to think of it in a different way. So, in Mark 6 and Matthew 14, let me put it this way. When I worked in Congress, I would always consider very important my staff to don't overload my schedule. Make sure I have some calm time. That never occurred, and quite frankly, there'd be many crises that came up during the day. Well, I want you to think of this day when Jesus it's not a very good day as it starts off when you hear that John the Baptist has been killed, and Jesus goes off mourning and because of his relative, his cousin, has been killed. But then what happens is the crowds come around, and Jesus does a lot of healing, and then he realizes they're hungry. So he has to feed the multitude, right? 5,000. But he's really trying to get away, and he wants to rest. And I think he goes up to the mountain to pray. I think I'm following the sequence correctly here. And now he tells the apostles, you all go off and rest. You know, this has been a tough day for you. None of this was planned, but it's very tough. And then what occurs is the storms occur on the sea. And the apostles are out there being buffeted by the waves, driven around by the wind. And Jesus, he says, well, I got to go find these guys. And he's walking on the water in the storm. And this storm continues at this massively difficult day Jesus has been through, the apostles have been through. They were struggling. And then Peter says, hey, I'm going to go out there in the water, be with you. And, of course, he sinks, and Jesus says, ye of little faith. When Jesus gets in the boat, everything calms down. Now, this is a great metaphor for why we need to rest and how we need to look at the world very differently. Because we'll have so many things that take place during our day, and particularly now if we're caught up with social media and having to look at the latest thing on TikTok and Instagram and never letting it let go. We will also be in storms. We are hungry like the multitude. We are concerned about our health, and we want the healing, and all things are going on. But the real powerful thing that occurred in this sequence, remember, they said, and then immediately this, and then right after that, this occurred. This is a whole sequence that is written by Matthew and Mark in it. This wasn't separated by days. Is when Jesus is mentioned, it's the faith that is the most important. He gets in the boat, everything calms down. And that's a wonderful lesson for us in our own lives. And when we're struggling and the storms are occurring all around us, focus on our faith to calm down as we are trying to rest and trying to sleep. A little slumber, as it says too, are very, very, very important to help us calm down. And Jesus also told his apostles at times, go out and rest. You need to have this. Even Jesus had times he had to rest too. And I figure if Jesus needs to rest, well, who am I to question that for me?
Yeah, good stuff. What part does eating too much too late play into sleep?
Well, that's a great question. So it also is this surge of energy in our body. First of all, if you want to put on weight, eat a lot of food and then go to sleep. Actually, sumo wrestlers do this, and they're not noted for being thin. They will eat a lot of rice and take a nap. So that adds to our weight. We're much better off not eating anything for a while before we go to sleep and then sleep. Some people say if you're going to go to sleep at 9 or 10, don't eat anything after 7 if you really want to keep your weight stable. So you want to lay off the foods, especially sugar foods. Don't have a drink of alcohol before bed. Don't have eat candy. Don't eat those donuts before bed. And quite frankly, you shouldn't eat that much sugar at all during the day, because all that is going to have a negative effect on your body.
A lot of pastors leave the ministry because of burnout, and there's a lot of contributing factors to burnout. That suggests they too aren't getting enough sleep. You have a comment on that?
Yes. So here's a few things. When it comes to dealing with mental health and counseling, only about 15% of pastors feel they have enough training to deal with it. And when you're being asked by a congregation or by an individual, says, help me with this. I mean, about 60% of people will turn towards clergy when they are struggling emotionally. And yet 85% of clergy says, I have no training in this. I don't know what to do. And so they may say, well, read the Bible more, pray more. And people say, well, that's not working for me. And quite frankly, they're looking for some practical solutions. And that's why I wrote about in my book practical solutions that clergy and counselors and individuals can look out for there. But it is really important for the pastor to say, look, I have to be a good role model for what you need to be too. I cannot be all things at all times. I need rest. I need days off, and really protect that. I mean, quite frankly, I'd say the best thing for any of us is to take, it's going to sound wild for me to say this, an hour a day. An hour a day set aside for us to calm, no phone, anything. Some people call it the prayerful hour. Some people call it the holy hour, conversation with God. Whatever it is, to have that time on a daily basis. If you can't do that, find something else. But find some other amount of time you can do that. But that's very, very important to do that. I was talking to one pastor, and he was really struggling. He's really a dynamic guy. I love his sermons. But he says, you know, he can really work at a sermon for weeks and really say, this is the one. I'm really going to hit the message with this. And after services, someone comes to him and says, you know, the band didn't play that song right. And he says, what am I, a cover band church? Because I didn't do Imagine. I can only imagine exactly the way the recording is. He says, well, it should be, or it's just not right. And he said to this individual, like, the only thing we should be looking at that has to be the right wording is the Bible. And even that, there's dozens of translations. Can we focus on that? But sometimes people get caught in those petty things. And so it is a matter of being able to step aside. By the way, there's one other magic ingredient here. Have a good sense of humor. It is important to model that also for our friends. That, you know what, I got to laugh at that, because I'm not going to get caught in that trap. That's evil, and Satan wanted me to get caught up in the trap of saying, oh, because I'm not perfect for everyone, something must be wrong. We're not going to be that way. And pause and show that message and mentor folks in terms of that's not where we're going to go with this.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think one of the things that we're dealing with in Christendom today is cynicism. It seems to be the cancer of our witness, quite frankly. We don't seem to be radiating anything positive. We're just upset about everything current.
That's right.
And I don't know how a person that eats cynicism for breakfast and lunch and dinner can sleep at night.
Well, and even Paul talked about, what you eat is going to be turned into waste. And we should watch what we think about, watch what we see. It takes a lot of self-discipline to handle these things, because what it does to us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Remember what it said in Deuteronomy, and where is it in Matthew and Mark, where he talks about the love of the Lord your God with all your mind, your strength, your heart, and your soul. Those four things are essential. And nowhere in Jesus' quotes does he say, you know what, I want you to have a miserable day. You should really sit around and feel miserable all day. He's really the great leader that says, be happy. I mean, you're with the Son of God. What are you focusing on here today? We are also close to the Son of God. Every time we pray, we are close to the Lord when we pray. That's the closest we may get here on earth, and we ought to have that. I'm going to tell a quick story. Friday, I travel to Ohio to go to the celebration of life for my sister, who 20 years of breast cancer and then 18 months of pancreatic cancer, a very heartfelt and touching time for us, difficult for us. But when I went to see her a couple weeks ago, as she was deteriorating greatly, I said, "How you doing?" She says, "I am happy." She says, "I know where I'm going. I'm about to go see my father. Capital F Father. I'm going to go be with him. I'm about to go be with Jesus, and I'll let you know how things are. If I'm allowed to send you a signal, I'll do that." Wow, what an incredible thing. And no one who visited with her walked away in tears except tears of joy. And that's a great lesson. And so whether you're clergy or whether you're sitting in the pews or whatever that is, we need to draw from that strength too and review our gratitude and calmness, because we've got to have sleep. You're just not going to make it if you don't spend time relaxing. And there's not a darn thing you can do at night in bed to change the condition of the world. But you can change how you feel. You can change how your spirit is reacting by spending that time thinking and praying and calming down.
Oh, you're a delight, Dr. Murphy. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, he has a website, very resourceful, and you can go there, drtimmurphy.com, and certainly his book, The Christ Cure. Boy, it couldn't be a better title. The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. Dr. Murphy, thank you, my friend. God bless you. Thank you for your service in Congress. I'd like to ask you someday, it looks like God called you into it and God called you out of it.
Yes, that's right.
Is that right? I'm just guessing, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was calling me in or calling me out, but either way, I got called out. Yeah, it's, you know what? I'm glad I got a chance to serve. I don't miss the circus, but I do miss some of the clowns. I have to say that.
Well said. Well said. God bless you, friend. Thanks.
God bless. Thank you.
The Lennox iComfort S30 thermostat can sense changes in your environment. It even knows when you come and go. So now your home's most important system is also the smartest.
Metal Masters can give you the smartest home comfort system available. It knows when you're away and adjusts when allergens and humidity get uncomfortable. Trust Metal Masters to provide perfect air for your family.
Lennox. Air is life. Make it perfect.
Stewardship begins with the knowledge that nothing belongs to us, but everything belongs to the Lord. This helps us to run a business not in the fear of lack, but in the assurance of His care and provision. Such a perspective eliminates the drive to sell and replaces it with a heart that says serve. This begins with serving our clients and coworkers with integrity and genuine care. That's why McKelly's is automotive service with a heart for God and treating others as we ourselves would want to be treated. Our promise is to never sell our clients anything we don't believe they need. Another is to do all we can to meet other needs, such as shuttle service and loaner cars, or taking the time to really listen, even at times praying with our customers. Sometimes this means sacrifice, going above and beyond, but that's why I work for Kelly's Automotive Service, honoring God while serving people with honesty and integrity.
Denise Krause is running for our new Jackson County Commissioner because a small group of powerful special interests shouldn't be able to pick our county commissioners. Denise Krause is committed to cutting waste and establishing transparency. Denise will ensure your tax dollars are spent wisely, always working hard for you and your family.
I'm Denise Krause, and I'd appreciate your vote.
First on the ballot, first for taxpayers. Denise Krause for our new Jackson County Commissioner.
And delighted to have back with us today Mark Miller. Mark is the senior attorney for the Pacific Legal Foundation. Can't say enough about them and their organization and the great work that they do. You can go to pacificlegal.org is the website. And let me encourage you to support them. They're frontline warriors for a lot of things that are very important to us. And again, that's pacificlegal.org. Mark, good to see you. How are you, friend?
I'm doing very well. Great to be with you, Perry.
Good to have you back. Hey, I got to go right to the Supreme Court. It's in the news today on a couple of cases. First of all, let me ask you this. What do you think about, in the next week or so, emergency stay requests to the Supreme Court? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely, Perry. You know, we're in election season. We're 6 days, T-minus 6 days and counting. And there are over 200 cases that have been filed by the Republican Party and the Democrat Party trying to game out who gets to vote, who doesn't get to vote, who should be blocked from the ballot. And just this morning, in fact, Wednesday morning, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Virginia could remove 1,600 potential voters from the rolls because they felt those voters were there illegally, somehow improperly. The Department of Justice had tried to stop them, and the Department of Justice had won up until it got to the U.S. Supreme Court. The lower courts had said that Virginia could not remove those voters. And Virginia isn't one of those 7 states that, you know, we think the election will turn on, but it is a fairly close state. It is purple. And 1,600 voters could make a difference if they do not get to vote. And 6-3 this morning, the 6 Republican appointees said that, in fact, Governor Youngkin and his team could remove those voters from the voter rolls. And that could affect the outcome of the election because there's a lot of electoral votes in the state of Virginia.
All right, so let's just zero in on this just for a moment. Isn't the bottom line about anything that would go to the Supreme Court relative to this election hinges on who's qualified to vote? Isn't that basically the question?
Yeah, Perry, I think that will be a lot of what they fight about. And also, those who vote, do they vote correctly? And so, for example, in Pennsylvania, there's a case pending where voters submitted absentee ballots, but maybe they didn't sign the absentee ballot correctly, or they didn't date the envelope, which state law requires them to do, to make it clear that they submitted their vote before the deadline. And so that is still hanging out there, probably won't get resolved until after the election. So there are any number of legal questions, more than I could even dream up. None of us would have thought, Perry, you and I are old enough both to remember 2000. And the idea that the Supreme Court would effectively decide the election for President Bush, or at least issue a ruling that had the consequences of meaning President Bush became president, would have been shocking to us if you asked us that in October of 2000. None of us saw that coming. Now it's the opposite. Now we basically expect the court, the U.S. Supreme Court, to be involved. And I would say the justices are probably rooting for a blowout either way, because if it's a blowout, then the court doesn't have to get involved. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen.
What pressure is on the Supreme Court to take a case or not take a case relative to this kind of stuff?
Perry, I think that's such an insightful question about what drives the justices. I think those of us who are veteran court watchers would have thought that Chief Justice Roberts had shown he did not want to be the center of attention. And I think about the case regarding the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, where he clearly didn't want to be involved with deciding whether Obamacare was constitutional or not constitutional. And he took a lot of criticism for ruling in favor of Obama. A lot of people felt he sort of punted. And now Chief Justice Roberts seems to be reacting differently. Now he seems to have much more of a backbone. If you're a conservative, you think. If you're a liberal, you think he's acting politically. But either way, over the last year, he has been more willing to sign on to sort of blockbuster opinions that affect the election's outcome. For example, the Colorado case, where the state of Colorado tried to remove President Trump from the ballot that will be voted upon next week. And the Supreme Court said, absolutely not. Colorado, if the Republican Party nominates former President Trump, then he has to remain on the ballot. And then likewise, the immunity decision. That was a very powerful decision in favor of President Trump, even if Chief Justice Roberts wants it to be read as favoring any president, not just President Trump. So although I would have told you a year or two ago that Chief Justice Roberts doesn't like the limelight for the court, he seems to have made his peace with it. And I think we could see some blockbuster election decisions over the next month to 2 months before the next president is sworn in, whoever it is.
Is the bottom line relative to eligibility to vote being a citizen?
Ultimately, I think that's what a lot of the fight is about. There's absolutely no question, Perry, that the Republican Party believes that one of the subtexts of the way immigration has been handled over the last 4 years, whether you agree with it or not, the leaders of the Republican Party believe that the inflow of immigrants over the border was designed intentionally or not to potentially create more Democrat voters. Democrats will say that's absolutely outrageous. President Biden would say it's outrageous, obviously Vice President Harris. But there's no question whether you're a legal citizen and then have the right to vote is definitely at stake in this election a week from today, or a week from yesterday, in fact.
The other thing that's so interesting about this, Mark, is just going back a little bit, is, you know, the Supreme Court ruled against the Biden administration for giving student loans, and they turned around and did it. Where's the consequences to breaking this?
You know, it's amazing, Perry. 3 times now the Biden administration has tried to forgive student loans, even though it didn't have legal authority to do so. It tried to use executive power. The Supreme Court said in that first case last year that, no, President Biden, you don't have the ability to forgive billions in dollars in student loans. And then they tried to do it twice more. Both of those efforts have been blocked in the lower courts, and the Supreme Court has blocked them as well, while they still wind their way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. You know, you can definitely question the executive branch, in this case, President Biden, whether he's willing to submit to the rule of law. If he doesn't like student loan forgiveness and his inability to forgive student loan debt, then he needs to get Congress to pass the law. But you could see the shoe being on the other foot. I do work for a 501c3, so I want to be clear, Perry, as you were so kind to point out, that I work for a nonprofit and we represent property rights, but we also don't take political sides. That's part of tax law. And so I could see President Trump trying to also use executive power and say he doesn't need congressional authority, whether it's on immigration or something else. So this is a battle that whoever's in charge of the White House will fight to say that they have more power than Congress and they can act without congressional authority. And that's where the Supreme Court comes in as the co-equal branch of government to sort of break the tie.
I understand that. I mean, because what's at stake here, if the Supreme Court rules on something and somebody ignores it and there's no consequences, then the integrity of the whole system breaks down.
It sends a message, Perry. You know, you're getting into what I think I love to talk about, which is first principles. If Americans see that our leadership in the White House, regardless of the party, does not obey the Supreme Court, does not obey the law, if you will, then Americans say, well, then why am I following the law? Like, I'm a sap. If the White House doesn't have to follow it, why should I? And that's a real problem for the country's, to get all Americans to believe in the rule of law and realize that we're all supposed to be equal before the law. And that's why, absolutely, you are right to call the Biden administration in this case on this, their unwillingness to accept that the U.S. Supreme Court has said you cannot forgive billions of dollars in student loan debt unless Congress approves it.
So then there really isn't a system here, Mark, for the Supreme Court to enforce its decision.
Well, that is true, and that there are famous quotes to that effect, that, you know, the Supreme Court cannot call up an army. We effectively have to depend on the White House and on Congress to obey and respect what the Supreme Court decides. We saw that, of course, in our, not quite in our lifetimes, but not much before our lifetimes, in the 50s and 60s, when the Supreme Court handed down Brown versus Board and then sought to, you know, have rulings that enforced that separate but equal was no longer true in our public schools. And so the White House had to send, you know, National Guard troops in to make sure that separate but equal was no longer being followed and that African-American students and white students would be educated together in our public schools. We have to believe as Americans that that outcome there would be followed the same today. If not, the system breaks down. It really is almost a question of faith. It's interesting to talk about this on the Dove channel where we're, you know, on a Christian television show. But we do have to have faith in our institutions that we will follow the rule of law and follow the precepts set out in the Constitution. And if we don't, that's bad for the country.
Yeah, I think we're frustrated, Mark. I think we're frustrated because if we're slowly slipping into lawlessness, we've seen the politicization of the court system, lawfare they're calling it now. We see all this going on, and you're kind of going on, well, you got the justice system over here, you got the courts over here, you got judges over here. We've lost something here. Something has fallen through the cracks. I don't even know how to define it. Do you?
I don't know that I know how to define it. I would agree with you that there is a perception that when the White House does not follow what the Supreme Court says, that they think they can just avoid the outcome and just redecide the same thing that they were just told they can't do, that Americans lose faith. And there's no question, the fact that the country is split 50-50, I think reflects that the country is losing faith in its institutions. And we have to expect our elected leaders to do better. whether it is President Biden with the student loan debt, whether it is the Republicans on whatever issues arise when they're in charge. On immigration, for example, President Trump repeatedly faced court pushback on the way he tried to prevent certain nation or nationality immigrants from coming into the country. And so he did, to the administration's credit, they kept revising their executive orders until the Supreme Court finally said they had done it constitutionally. Those of us who have faith in our system, who we're old, long in the tooth like me, believe that our courts and our institutions can withstand the faithlessness that sometimes we feel in our despondent days. And I think we will feel good as the country goes forward, particularly as we get ready to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country in 2026, following up with the Declaration of Independence. I know, Perry, I'm sure you're old enough like me to remember the 200th anniversary in 1976, and what a patriotic, time that was. And I hope that we'll see that in our future in the next year or two when we get to 2026 too, because our institution, we are, despite all our problems, the greatest country in the world, a beacon of light for the rest of the world. And that's why everyone wants to come here.
One other quick question before I take a break. As the Supreme Court now going to probably be wrapped up with these emergency stays for a little bit, what do you see on the docket for this go-around that's got your attention?
Well, Perry, as you just got me to discuss, the Supreme Court seems to be leaving a lot of room on its docket for election cases. But some of the important cases that are definitely going to be considered include something about ghost guns. Can you buy the pieces of a gun designed to be put together almost like a Lego and avoid federal requirements that there be a serial number on the gun, that you pass a background check to buy the gun, because arguably the manufacturer says it's not a gun, it's just the pieces of a gun, what we call a ghost gun. That's an important case called Garland v. Vanderstock. Transgender rights and parental rights and the state's rights is an important issue. Right now, the Tennessee Attorney General, in the case of United States versus Scarametti, is defending a Tennessee law that says children cannot get transgender surgery, minors can't get transgender surgery or puberty blockers or anything regarding transgenderism as a matter of law. The Supreme Court will be considering that. The lower courts said that law was valid. Some critics would say that it should be up to the parents of the child, or maybe it shouldn't even be a state law at all. It'll be very interesting to see what the U.S. Supreme Court does there. Also, abortion will be on the docket. Maybe we should talk about that in the next segment. I'll leave that to you, abortion and free speech, and internet porn and children. So we are not lacking for huge social issues on the Supreme Court's docket this term.
All right, let me take a quick break. PacificLegal.org is Mark's website. He and his team, I tell you, they're there for us. Support them. PacificLegal.org. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back.
Worried that inflation might burst your retirement bubble? I'm Michelle Slate. Lighthouse Financial shines guiding light on retirement, investing, and insurance. Helping you navigate the stormy seas of retirement, Lighthouse stands tall as a beacon of hope, offering you wise counsel and biblically responsible investing. Lighthouse Financial. Call us today, 541-494-1034.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and so timely to have back with us somebody I so appreciate. Dr. Carson is the founder of American Cornerstone Institute. Alan Dershowitz, a lawyer, obviously, a Harvard professor of law. Dr. Erwin Lutzer, pastor emeritus of the Moody Church in Chicago. Been a long time. David Limbaugh is back with us. I'm honored to have evangelist Dr. Elvita King with us.
For more Focus Today episodes and podcasts, go to theDove.us. A ministry moment on the Dove.
He's giving them a word of encouragement. He wants to give them a word of help. He says, "Come to me, all ye who are heavy laden and you're borne down and you feel the weight of life itself." And he says, "I will give you rest." Here's Jesus, the living Son of God, the sovereign God of this universe, now seated at the Father's right hand. And he says, "All power has been given to me in heaven and earth." So we know that whatever burden you and I carry, he is able to deal with it. Because the Bible's asked a couple of times, is there anything too hard for God? How can anything be too hard for God, who is sovereignly in control of every single solitary thing, who is omniscient, knowing all things, omnipresent, all things are in His presence, and He has the power to handle every circumstance of life. And what is He saying to us? Come to me.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
So honored to have back with us Mark Miller, senior attorney there with the Pacific Legal Foundation. Have a lot of questions for him. Let me say again, Mark and his team, pacificlegal.org. These are frontline warriors on our behalf in so many areas. Check it out. Mark, I want to come back to a basic question, and I'm trying to figure out a way to frame the question, and that would be parental rights. They are slipping away right in front of us. At what point does a parent not have a right to control their minor child or be the overseer of the minor child?
Barry, the Supreme Court said about 100 years ago in two very important cases involving how states have children submit to public schooling and whether they can be educated in private schools. The Supreme Court said the 14th Amendment, right of liberty protects the parent's right to care, custody, and control of their child. And over the last several years, there have been any number of arguments, and it really goes back hundreds of years, but it's come to a head recently. Does the government control our children, or do we? And we see it so often with homeschoolers. As a parent myself, that over a number of years, my wife and I have homeschooled our children off and on. We should have the right to homeschool our children, but the state sometimes says, no, you don't. Or if you do, you need to follow our rules very carefully, or we're going to think you're putting your children in danger. As a parent, I find that outrageous, and the courts are usually our last refuge. That right to care, custody, and control of our children is key, and that definitely is coming up now with transgender issues. Do we allow parents to decide that their children should go through transgender surgery, which some people would say is basically mutilation, or can the state say, yes, you have the right to care, custody, control of your child, you have parental rights, but not maybe to mutilate your children, not to have them submit to puberty blockers that some would argue is quack science. So this is a real interesting issue in the Skrmetti case that the Supreme Court will hear in December.
But what about parents being notified of their child's decision, minor child's decision, being blocked? I mean, where does that come into the equation?
And, abortion almost is sort of the canary in the coal mine on that issue, where over the last 50 years since Roe, we had these states that were arguing that even though our children couldn't get a tattoo without our permission, somehow they could get an abortion without telling us, or let alone notifying us, let alone getting our consent as parents. And now we see this with the transgender issue, where, can these children go through the puberty blockers? Can the schools have them go to see doctors when they think that they're confused about their gender? And does the school have to tell the parents? I think anyone who understands the 14th Amendment and that parental right to care, custody, and control of their child would think that it should be a given that the school has to tell the parents, even though, like in California, they're saying the school doesn't. I think the U.S. Supreme Court is going to have to resolve this pretty squarely, and one would hope that it will not break down on political lines, that rather perhaps they can all agree, as they often do on a lot of cases. There's only a few where they break down on political lines, but they could all agree that parents have a right to know what's happening to their children, particularly when we are messing with their very gender or sex, if you will. That seems to be pretty outrageous to think parents wouldn't even be told.
Let's go over to free speech, the Free Speech Coalition versus the Paxton case. This is interesting as to whether or not internet pornography and age verification is a free speech issue. It's hard to believe that we're dealing with this kind of stuff. But if you think about it, it not only would apply to pornography, but it might apply to just raw violence, wouldn't it?
Yes, absolutely, Perry. It's amazing how our free speech doctrine has arguably gotten sort of turned on its head in the sense that we're, rather than recognizing there's a role for the government in making sure, when I was a kid, pornography was not something a child could get to. But because of the internet, society made sure that couldn't happen when I was a child. But now, because of the internet, it is too easy for our children to get to it. So in this case, the Texas governor and the Texas legislature tried to pass a law that said there should be age verification for any sites that could include porn. And right now, the Free Speech Coalition, as you said, is saying, well, no, that's a violation of the First Amendment. We shouldn't have to get age verification to see who's looking at porn. And, there may be interesting legal arguments. How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Maybe some adults will get affected by this age verification. But if you wonder if we can't, as a society, agree that there should be some sort of limits on the internet and pornography, we certainly had these limits up until the last couple of decades with the rise of the internet. And so you wonder what the Supreme Court will do with this case. But this is another case they will definitely hear, unlike there's an abortion free speech case we could discuss as well that I think you'll find very interesting too.
I don't know how you keep your head level sometimes looking at these things, because some of them are so obvious. So we're dealing with the core of morality and the human experience. And I don't know if that is a consideration at the Supreme Court level or not, where just pure morality would override some stretching of a definition of a word.
Justice Scalia used to say, Perry, and this will be interesting because it's sort of the devil's advocate position, and perhaps the devil's advocate position is a well-taken aphorism here. He would say, if the people want to go to hell, as a judge, it's not my job to stop them. I just have to make sure the rules are in place. And, he was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it definitely has some appropriateness when we're talking about porn. Here, the people are saying, the people of Texas, they elected state legislators to pass this law. So if you follow Scalia's aphorism out to his logical conclusion, you would say the Supreme Court should say, we're not going to get in the way. If the people want to protect children from pornography, then the state legislature can do so. What's unfortunate is there's a lot of states that won't see it that way. And what's unfortunate is I can't tell you what the justices are going to say about this. I can tell you what a few of them may say. But, what they said in the abortion case, the Dobbs case, is that free speech has been perverted, distorted, I should say, by abortion jurisprudence. Here, you could say, will free speech law be kept sacrosanct at the expense of children getting to see pornography? Or will we say that the First Amendment does not require us to give carte blanche access to children to get to pornography? It seems to me the founders would never have thought the First Amendment was supposed to allow children to see pornography. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the other part of this is that we don't seem to fear the law anymore. We seem to be in a lawless state, and I say that with a broken heart, but that appears to be the case, where we just don't fear the consequences of breaking the law anymore.
What we try to do, Perry, at Pacific Legal Foundation is get that fear fixed, that the law should be applied to everyone equally. If I'm speeding down the highway, then I should be stopped. And if a powerful politician is speeding down the highway, he should be stopped too. Too often, Americans think the system is rigged against them, which is that lawless society idea. What we do at Pacific Legal is try to make sure the rules are fair and the rules are applied to everyone equally, regardless of race, regardless of power, regardless of money. But it's not easy. It's something we fight every day for over 50 years, and the job isn't getting any easier, as I said.
Yeah. Will you have any cases before the Supreme Court this year? Do you know?
Well, we don't know yet. The case we're most excited about is a case out of Boston that involves Boston Magnet Public Schools. A few years ago, the Supreme Court said in Students for Fair Admissions that Ivy League schools, public colleges, can't discriminate in their admission in favor of one group of people, one minority, over another. In those cases, we were representing Asian Americans. It was not our case that was ruled upon, but we were one of the movers behind the case. And the Supreme Court ruled correctly that we should all have equal opportunity to get into those schools and not get a thumb on the scales of justice, of the admission that because we come from a certain group of people, we get a favored status. Now we're trying to take that decision and bring it down to the high schools. If it's true that colleges shouldn't just discriminate on the basis of race with admissions, then it should also be true with the public magnet schools. We lost a case. We didn't get a case heard out of Virginia on this issue, but now we're hopeful that a case out of Boston will be heard. The Supreme Court is considering even now, next Friday, they'll decide whether they're going to hear that case. We just want everyone to have the same opportunity the 14th Amendment is supposed to provide for everybody.
That's another branch of affirmative action, right?
It's absolutely true. What Chief Justice Roberts said about 20 years ago is the way to stop discriminating on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And that's all we're saying. Stop, don't do it. And to his credit, Chief Justice Roberts has led that sort of revolution in the law to enforce the 14th Amendment by its own terms.
Mark, thank you for your time. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, pacificlegal.org, that's his website. Again, Mark and his team, they're there for you. Support them. pacificlegal.org. You can track a lot of the cases that they're watching and support their work. pacificlegal.org. Thank you, Mark. God bless you, my friend. Stay in the fight.
God bless you, Perry. Thank you.
Denise Krause is running for our new Jackson County Commissioner because a small group of powerful special interests shouldn't be able to pick our county commissioners. Denise Krause is committed to cutting waste and establishing transparency. Denise will ensure your tax dollars are spent wisely, always working hard for you and your family.
I'm Denise Krause, and I'd appreciate your vote.
First on the ballot, first for taxpayers. Denise Krause for our new Jackson County Commissioner.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Studies show that play is one of the best ways to stimulate brain development
and learn how to solve problems.
In fact, play is critical to our physical and emotional well-being.
At any age.
Learn more about play at thegeniusofplay.org.
The Dove TV, encouraging, informative, and your home for Wretched TV weeknights at 9 p.m.
Well, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Notice how smiley Jerry is. And he's got a pulse.
It's still beating there.
Beating.
We're still alive.
They're alive. The Yanks beat the Dodgers 11-4 last night.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Nice to have you back, buddy.
It's nice to be here for the moment.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. A lot going on in the news. We're winding down to the final hours. The hinges are coming off of a couple of things.
Oh, yeah.
It's just an amazing time. I hope that we can keep our head. Let me ask you just one little quick question before we get into the heat of all this.
Yeah.
Do you think there really are undecided voters?
I really doubt it.
I don't think so either.
I doubt it.
I think everybody's pretty much made up their mind now. You might as well go ahead and punch the card and send it in.
Send it in.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Good morning to you. Beautiful weather out there. A little cooler, a little wetter, a little of everything. We'll talk about that. And what's special today?
Well, something I think that the sitting president needs a little help from, a publicist. It is National Publicist Day. They put the right spin on things, right?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. It's
my publicist fired me.
Here's a little bit of trivia. On October 30th, 1906, the New York Times printed verbatim the very first press release that was written by Ivy Lee. He was called the father of modern PR. He represented the Pennsylvania Railroad, and earlier they had a train come off the rails and 50 people lost their lives. He wrote a press release about it, and then he convinced the train company to take a special train and get reporters to the scene of the accident so they could actively report on it. So that's the first publicist, and I think